Hey everyone. Tonight we're diving deep into the most mysterious, awe-inspiring, and utterly baffling megastructures that existed before the Great Flood. From colossal stone monuments that defy modern engineering, to underground labyrinths lost to time. From crystalline cities buried beneath miles of sediment to technology so advanced it's kept archaeologists questioning everything they thought they knew. Ancient megastructures cover our planet, yet we've only uncovered a fraction of what once existed. That means there's a whole world of pre-flood civilization waiting in the shadows, filled with engineering marvels that would make our greatest achievements seem like child's play. So before we journey into these forgotten wonders together, take a moment to like the video and subscribe, but only if you genuinely enjoy exploring the unknown with me. And let me know in the comments where you're watching from and what time it is for you. It's always fascinating to see who's brave enough to join us on these journeys into humanity's forgotten past. Now dim the lights, maybe grab something to take notes with, and let's ease into tonight's exploration of pre-flood megastructures that modern science simply cannot explain. When you think of ancient civilizations, you might picture primitive tools, simple dwellings, and basic technology. But tonight, we're going somewhere else entirely. We're going to places where impossibly precise stonework exists, where mathematics and astronomy were mastered millennia before we thought possible, and where structures stand that our modern equipment would struggle to build even today. These megastructures aren't just stone and mortar. They're three-dimensional puzzles that exist right here on our planet, constructed with such precision they look like they were designed by someone with knowledge far beyond what history tells us was possible. Picture this. You're standing before a wall of perfectly fitted stones, each weighing several tons, cut with such mathematical precision that not even a sheet of paper can fit between them. The wall is part of a vast complex that aligns perfectly with astronomical events that only occur once every 26,000 years. And it was supposedly built by people using copper tools and fiber ropes. These ancient sites don't care about your history books or your comfort zone. They operate by principles so advanced that even our most sophisticated engineers struggle to understand them. Some of these structures are built with stones weighing hundreds of tons, moved across impossible terrain, and stacked with unfathomable precision. Not just placed, but interlocked. Massive stones cut at perfect angles, fitted together like pieces of a cosmic jigsaw puzzle, creating structures that have withstood catastrophic floods, earthquakes, and the relentless march of time itself. Some of them align with star systems, so distant we only discovered them with modern telescopes. Others are positioned along energy grid lines that we're just beginning to detect with sensitive equipment. But here's what really keeps archaeologists up at night. We keep finding new structures, new complexities, new mysteries that challenge everything we thought we knew about human history. Every new excavation brings evidence of technologies that shouldn't have existed, mathematical knowledge that wasn't supposed to be discovered for thousands of years, and architectural techniques we still can't fully replicate. And for every new discovery, 10 more questions arise. The pre-flood world has been keeping secrets for millennia, and it's not about to give them up easily. It guards its mysteries beneath layers of earth, beneath ocean waters, and behind the veil of conventional historical thinking. But tonight, we're going to dig into that forgotten world and explore some of the most mind-bending, paradigm-shifting, absolutely fascinating megastructures that existed before the great waters changed our planet forever. Because if you think you know ancient history, wait until you hear about what's been hiding in plain sight, challenging the very foundation of our understanding all this time. And the really unsettling part? We're just beginning to uncover the truth. Let's start our journey in a place that sounds like it came straight out of a legend, Göbekli Tepe in Turkey. This megalithic site was deliberately buried about 10,000 years ago. That's 7,000 years before Stonehenge and 6,000 years before the first known writing system appeared. Göbekli Tepe isn't just old, it's impossible. The engineering knowledge required to create these perfectly carved T-shaped pillars, some weighing up to 20 tons, simply should not have existed in a time when humans were supposedly primitive hunter-gatherers. The pillars are arranged in perfect circles, with intricate carvings of animals that demonstrate sophisticated artistic abilities and deep symbolic thinking. Conventional archaeology tells us that at this time, humans were just beginning to experiment with basic farming, not quarrying, transporting, carving, and arranging massive stone monuments with astronomical alignments. But the evidence stands before us, unmoved by our disbelief, challenging us to reconsider everything we thought we knew about human capability and ancient history. And here's where it gets even stranger. Göbekli Tepe was intentionally buried, preserved, perfectly under thousands of tons of earth, as if someone wanted to protect it from a coming catastrophe. The effort to bury such a massive complex would have been almost as monumental as building it in the first place. Why would an ancient people invest such tremendous effort to hide their greatest achievement? What were they trying to protect it from? The answers might lie in the global flood stories that appear in over 200 different cultures around the world. From the Epic of Gilgamesh to the biblical account of Noah, from Native American traditions to Australian Aboriginal Dreamtime stories, virtually every ancient culture tells of a time when water covered the earth and wiped away a previous world. What if these weren't just myths? What if Göbekli Tepe is evidence of an advanced pre-flood civilization, one that possessed knowledge and technology far beyond what conventional history admits was possible? The careful burial of this site suggests its creators knew something was coming, something catastrophic enough to wipe away nearly all traces of their existence. And that's just one site in Turkey. Similar anomalies appear across the globe, forming a network of impossible ancient achievements that point to a very different human story than the one we've been told. Now let's travel halfway around the world to the other side of the Atlantic, where another impossible structure has been challenging mainstream archaeology for centuries. The Great Pyramid of Giza isn't just a tomb, it's a mathematical and engineering miracle that modern builders with all their advanced technology would struggle to replicate even today. Standing at nearly 500 feet tall and composed of an estimated 2.3 million stone blocks, each weighing between 2 and 70 tons, the Great Pyramid is aligned to true north with an accuracy of 3/60ths of a degree. This is an error margin of just 0.05% more precise than we could achieve before the invention of modern surveying equipment. The perimeter of the pyramid, when divided by twice its height, gives the value of pi to several decimal places, a mathematical constant supposedly not calculated until the Greeks, thousands of years later. The Great Pyramid also encodes the exact dimensions of Earth, with its perimeter representing the equator and its height representing the distance from the equator to the North Pole at a scale of 143,200. How did its builders possess such precise knowledge of our planet's dimensions thousands of years ago? And then there's the precision of construction. The base of the Great Pyramid is level to within just 2.1 centimeters, less than an inch, an astonishing feat of engineering on a structure covering 13 acres. The four sides of the base have a mean error of only 0.09% from a perfect square, despite each side measuring more than 750 feet. The massive granite and limestone blocks are cut so perfectly that the joints between them are less than 1/50th of an inch wide. We would need diamond-tip power tools to achieve such precision today, yet we're told this was accomplished with copper chisels and stone hammers. Inside the pyramid, the mysteries only deepen. The internal chambers and passageways demonstrate acoustic properties that suggest an advanced understanding of sound engineering. The king's chamber is constructed entirely of precisely fitted granite blocks, weighing up to 80 tons each, transported from a quarry more than 500 miles away. Not a single tool has ever been found inside the Great Pyramid, leaving us with no clear evidence of how it was actually built. Mainstream Egyptology attributes its construction to Pharaoh Khufu around 2560 BCE, yet no pharaoh's body has ever been found inside, and the only contested evidence linking it to Khufu is some questionable red ochre markings discovered in a relieving chamber above the king's chamber. But here's what's truly mind-bending. Recent carbon dating of organic material found within the mortar of the Great Pyramid suggests it may be significantly older than conventionally believed. What if the Great Pyramid and the other structures on the Giza Plateau weren't built by the dynastic Egyptians at all? What if they are the remnants of a much older pre-flood civilization that possessed scientific knowledge and technological capabilities that were lost in a global cataclysm, only to be rediscovered millennia later? The ancient Egyptians themselves recorded in the Turin Papyrus that their land was ruled by the gods, demigods, and spirits of the dead for thousands of years before the first pharaoh. Could these gods have been the survivors of an advanced pre-flood civilization, passing on fragments of their knowledge to the emerging cultures that followed the catastrophe? The questions only multiply when we consider that the Sphinx, sitting just a short distance from the pyramids, shows evidence of water erosion that geological experts date to at least 10,000 BCE, nearly 8,000 years before the supposed construction of the pyramids. This date aligns perfectly with the end of the last ice age, and the massive flooding that would have occurred as the glaciers melted, the very time when countless cultures around the world placed their flood narratives. As we stand in the shadow of these ancient monuments, we must ask ourselves, are we looking at the achievements of the civilization we think built them, or are we witnessing the fingerprints of a forgotten world, a pre-flood reality that has been erased from our historical records, but left its mark in stone too massive to be washed away? Now let's cross the globe again, this time to South America, where the mysteries only deepen at sites like Pumapunku and Tiahuanaco in Bolivia. Sitting at an elevation of over 12,000 feet on the Altiplano Plateau, these megalithic sites contain stonework so precise that it defies conventional explanation. Massive blocks of andesite and granite, some weighing over 100 tons, are cut with such perfect right angles and smooth surfaces that they appear to have been crafted with modern machinery rather than primitive tools. The stones feature complex interlocking joints, perfect inside and outside, right angles, and drill holes so precise they could only have been made with advanced technology. Some of the cuts and holes are so perfect that engineers today would be hard-pressed to replicate them, even with modern equipment. One of the most baffling features of Pumapunku is the H-blocks, perfectly identical andesite blocks, cut with such precision that they all fit together seamlessly, despite their complex shape. These H-blocks have perplexed archaeologists for decades, as there's no evidence of the technology required to create such perfect duplicates with such a difficult material. Andesite has a hardness of 7 on the Mohs scale, making it one of the hardest stones to work with. You'd need something harder than steel to cut it with such precision. Yet conventional history tells us the builders had only stone and copper tools at their disposal. Even more perplexing is the age of these structures. While mainstream archaeology dates Pumapunku to around 500–600 CE, other evidence suggests it may be much older. The astronomical alignments of nearby Tiahuanaco point to a construction date of around 15,000 BCE, according to some researchers, a time when humans were supposedly still primitive hunter-gatherers. And here's where the mystery deepens even further. Tiahuanaco contains depictions of animals that haven't existed in the region for over 10,000 years, including toxodons and Cuvironeus, extinct creatures from the Pleistocene epoch. How could the builders have depicted animals they'd never seen, unless the site truly is much older than conventionally believed? Even more compelling is the evidence that Pumapunku and Tiahuanaco may once have been port structures on the shore of Lake Titicaca, which is now located over 12 miles away and 100 feet lower than it once was. Geological evidence shows that the lake's shoreline has changed dramatically over the millennia, and ancient structures have been discovered underwater in the lake itself. Could a catastrophic flood have altered the landscape, changing the lake's boundaries and leaving these once coastal structures stranded high on the plateau? The precision of the stonework at Pumapunku has led some researchers to suggest that the site may have been constructed using a lost technology, perhaps even machine tools. The identical nature of many components, the perfect right angles, and the complex interlocking systems all point to a level of technological sophistication that shouldn't have existed in pre-Columbian South America, or anywhere else in the ancient world, for that matter. What if these structures are the remnants of a global pre-flood civilization, one that possessed advanced technology and knowledge that was largely lost in a worldwide catastrophe? The evidence is literally written in stone, challenging us to reconsider our understanding of human history and technological development. As we continue our journey through the impossible megastructures of the pre-flood world, let's travel to Lebanon, where the enigmatic ruins of Baalbek have been confounding archaeologists for generations. The Temple of Jupiter at Baalbek contains the largest dressed stone blocks ever used in any construction in the world. The famous Trilithon, 3 colossal limestone blocks forming part of the temple podium, each measure approximately 64 feet in length, 14 feet in height, and 12 feet in thickness. Each of these megalithic blocks weighs an estimated 800 to 1,000 tons, more than many modern construction cranes can lift. Even more astonishing is the nearby stone known as the Stone of the Pregnant Woman, which weighs an estimated 1,200 tons. And in 2014, archaeologists discovered an even larger block, still attached to the bedrock at the quarry, weighing a mind-boggling 1,650 tons, making it the largest known ancient stone block ever quarried. To put this in perspective, the heaviest object ever moved by humans in modern times was the Baikonur launch pad, which weighed 1,730 tons and required the coordinated effort of dozens of specialized vehicles and hundreds of workers using advanced technology. Yet we're expected to believe that ancient people somehow quarried, transported, and precisely positioned these massive stones using only primitive tools, rollers, and manpower. The conventional explanation that these stones were moved using wooden rollers, ropes, and thousands of workers simply doesn't hold up to scrutiny. The terrain between the quarry and the construction site includes uphill sections and turns that would make such transportation methods practically impossible for objects of this size and weight. Even more perplexing is the precision with which these gigantic blocks are placed. They fit together so perfectly that not even a piece of paper can be inserted between them, despite their enormous size. This level of precision engineering with such massive objects would be challenging even with modern technology. Mainstream archaeology attributes the Temple of Jupiter to the Romans, built during the 1st century CE. But here's where the mystery deepens. The temple platform and its colossal foundation stones are stylistically different from the Roman temple built on top of them. The megalithic platform appears to be much older, with the Romans simply building their temple on top of a pre-existing ancient structure, a common practice throughout history. Roman historical records make no mention of how these massive foundation stones were moved or placed, suggesting that they were already there when the Romans arrived. So who built the original megalithic platform at Baalbek, and how did they move stones weighing over 1,000 tons with such precision? What kind of technology would be required to accomplish such a feat? And why would they go to such extraordinary lengths when smaller blocks would have been far easier to work with? The answers may lie in the local legends surrounding Baalbek, which claim it was built by the gods themselves in the distant past, or by a race of giants who lived before the Great Flood. Ancient texts from the region speak of a time before the deluge, when advanced beings walked the earth and constructed mighty works that would survive the coming cataclysm. Could Baalbek's megalithic foundation be one of these surviving pre-flood structures, built by a civilization with technological capabilities far beyond what conventional history attributes to ancient cultures? The evidence is literally set in stone, challenging us to reconsider our understanding of what was possible in the ancient world. Now let's journey to another continent and explore the mysterious underwater structures off the coast of Japan, known as the Yonaguni Monument. Discovered in 1987 by dive tour operator Kiichiro Aratake, the Yonaguni Monument is a massive underwater rock formation that appears to be an ancient stepped pyramid with perfect right angles, straight walls, and sharp edges. The structure, located off the coast of Yonaguni Island, sits at depths ranging from 5 to 40 meters below the surface and measures approximately 120 meters long by 40 meters wide. What makes this underwater monument so mysterious is the debate over whether it's natural or man-made. Some geologists claim it's simply the result of natural erosion acting on the sandstone, creating what only appears to be artificial structures. But others point to the perfect right angles, the consistent parallel faces, and the precise terrace steps as evidence of human modification, if not complete construction. Marine geologist Masaki Kimura of the University of the Ryukyus has studied the monument for decades and firmly believes it to be a man-made structure, modified from the natural bedrock, with evidence of quarrying marks, stone tools, and even what appears to be post holes and drainage channels. The most compelling feature is perhaps the so-called turtle formation, a clearly defined rock carving that bears a striking resemblance to a turtle, complete with eyes, mouth, and shell details. But here's where the Yonaguni Monument becomes truly mind-bending. The structure currently sits underwater, meaning it must have been constructed when sea levels were much lower, which last occurred during the last ice age, ending around 10,000 BCE. This would place its construction thousands of years before the oldest known Japanese civilization and well before the development of the advanced stoneworking techniques necessary to create such a monument. For the Yonaguni Monument to be man-made, it would require pushing back the timeline of advanced Japanese civilization by at least 5,000 years, if not more. Kimura suggests the monument is evidence of a lost civilization he calls Mu, reminiscent of the legendary lost continent mentioned in various ancient traditions. Could the Yonaguni Monument be evidence of a pre-flood civilization that once thrived in the region when sea levels were lower, only to be submerged when the great melting at the end of the last ice age caused ocean levels to rise dramatically? The underwater location of this structure directly connects it to the concept of a flood event that changed the face of our planet. Interestingly, Japanese legends speak of the Kamihokozan, a holy place that sank beneath the seas in ancient times. Could this be the cultural memory of the submergence of the Yonaguni structure, and perhaps an entire coastal civilization? As we contemplate this sunken stone enigma, we must consider the possibility that it represents just one small fragment of a vast pre-flood world that now lies beneath our oceans, hidden from view but preserving the evidence of a lost chapter in human history. Speaking of underwater mysteries, let's now dive into the Caribbean, where the infamous Bimini Road continues to spark heated debate among archaeologists and alternative researchers alike. Discovered in 1968 off the coast of North Bimini Island in the Bahamas, the Bimini Road, also called the Bimini Wall, is an underwater rock formation consisting of neatly arranged limestone blocks that appear to form a 0.8-kilometer long road or wall. The blocks are rectangular, measuring between 2 to 5 meters in length, and are arranged in what appears to be a purposeful linear pattern with smaller stones wedged between larger ones, creating what looks remarkably like a paved road or the foundation of a massive wall. What makes the Bimini Road particularly interesting is its connection to a prediction allegedly made by the famous American psychic Edgar Cayce in 1938, who stated a portion of the temples may yet be discovered under the slime of ages in seawater near Bimini. Expect it in 68 or 69, not so far away. The discovery of the Bimini Road exactly when Cayce predicted naturally fueled speculation that it might be connected to his other predictions about Atlantis. Conventional geologists claim the formation is simply a natural occurrence of beach rock that fractured into rectangular patterns over time, a phenomenon known to occur in limestone. But others point to the uniform size and thickness of the blocks, their precise arrangement, and what appear to be tool marks and notches as evidence of human craftsmanship. Some researchers have reported finding what they believe to be mortise and tenon joints in the stones, construction techniques that shouldn't exist in a natural formation. Like the Yonaguni Monument, the Bimini Road currently lies underwater, meaning that if it is artificial, it must have been constructed when sea levels were much lower, at least 10,000 years ago during the last ice age. This would place its construction well before any known civilization in the Caribbean region. Recent research, using satellite imagery and underwater mapping technology, has revealed that the Bimini Road may be just one small part of a much larger complex of underwater structures in the region. Some researchers believe they've identified the remains of walls, foundations, and even pyramid-like structures beneath the waters surrounding Bimini and neighboring islands. Could these underwater formations be the remnants of a coastal civilization that thrived during the last ice age, only to be submerged when melting glaciers caused sea levels to rise dramatically? The location is particularly significant because it aligns with Plato's description of Atlantis as being located beyond the Pillars of Hercules, the Strait of Gibraltar in the Atlantic Ocean. While mainstream archaeology dismisses any connection to Atlantis as pseudoscience, the underwater structures around Bimini undeniably exist and remain inadequately explained. Whether natural or artificial, the Bimini Road represents one of many underwater mysteries that challenge our understanding of Earth's past and the possibility of advanced civilizations existing long before conventional history acknowledges. If these structures are indeed artificial, they would provide compelling physical evidence for the existence of advanced pre-flood civilizations that were subsequently lost beneath the rising waters as the Ice Age ended. Now let's journey to the Mediterranean, where another underwater mystery awaits us off the coast of Cuba. In 2001, a team led by Advanced Digital Communications discovered what appeared to be an ancient city complete with massive granite-like blocks in perfect geometric alignments, pyramids, and even what looked like sphinxes, all sitting more than 2,000 feet below the surface of the water. The team used advanced sonar equipment to map the seafloor and discovered what appeared to be a series of symmetrical and geometric stone structures covering an area of approximately 2 square kilometers. The structures appear to be arranged in a pattern reminiscent of urban planning, with what look like streets, intersections, and distinct building-like formations. Some of the granite-like blocks are enormous, measuring up to 5 meters in height and weighing several tons. The researchers also identified what appeared to be inscriptions or symbols carved into some of the stones, suggesting a written language. When the discovery was first announced, it sent shockwaves through the archaeological community, with some researchers dubbing it the Cuban Atlantis. The site, located in the Yucatan Channel between Cuba and the Yucatan Peninsula, sits in an area that would have been above water during the last ice age when sea levels were much lower. But here's what makes this discovery truly mind-bending. The structures are now more than 2,000 feet underwater, meaning they would have been submerged, not during the relatively slow sea level rise at the end of the last ice age, but during a much more catastrophic flooding event. For structures to be found at such depths, they would need to have been built at least 50,000 years ago, based on our current understanding of sea level changes. This time frame is so far beyond conventional archaeological paradigms that most mainstream scientists have simply dismissed the discovery or ignored it entirely. Follow-up investigations have been limited, partly due to the technical challenges of exploring sites at such depths, and partly due to political complications involving research permits in Cuban waters. The few images and sonar scans that have been released show geometric structures that appear decidedly artificial, with right angles, straight lines, and pyramidal formations that seem unlikely to have formed naturally. Could these structures represent the remains of a truly ancient pre-flood civilization that existed tens of thousands of years before our current historical timeline begins? A civilization so old that it predates not only the end of the last ice age, but perhaps even the beginning of it. The depth at which these structures are found suggests a catastrophic subsidence of the seafloor or a flood event of such magnitude that it challenges our current understanding of Earth's geological history. Interestingly, many ancient flood myths speak not just of rising waters, but of the land itself sinking beneath the waves, a description that would more accurately match the extreme depth at which the Cuban structures are found. As technology advances and more comprehensive explorations become possible, the underwater city off Cuba may yet provide some of the most compelling evidence for the existence of advanced civilizations in Earth's distant past. Civilizations that may have been wiped out by cataclysmic events so devastating that they reset the course of human development and left only the most resilient megastructures as evidence of their existence. Let's now turn our attention to another megalithic mystery, the Sacsayhuaman fortress near Cusco, Peru. Perched on a hill overlooking the ancient Inca capital, Sacsayhuaman features massive limestone blocks fitted together with such incredible precision that not even a piece of paper can be inserted between them. The largest of these stones weighs an estimated 200 tons and stands nearly 30 feet tall. What makes Sacsayhuaman truly baffling is not just the size of the stones, but the bizarre, jigsaw puzzle-like way they fit together. Unlike conventional masonry, where blocks are squared and laid in regular patterns, the stones at Sacsayhuaman have complex, irregular shapes with multiple angles, sometimes more than a dozen angles on a single block, yet they fit together so perfectly that mortar was unnecessary. Even more impressive, these interlocking joints have helped the walls withstand numerous powerful earthquakes over the centuries, while more modern buildings in the region have collapsed. The engineering knowledge required to design such earthquake-resistant structures using irregularly shaped blocks of this size represents an architectural sophistication that shouldn't have existed in pre-Columbian Peru. Mainstream archaeology attributes Sacsayhuaman to the Inca, built around the 15th century CE. But here's where the mystery deepens. The Inca themselves didn't claim to have built Sacsayhuaman. According to Spanish chronicles recording Inca oral history, the Inca said these structures were built by an earlier race of giants called Huari, who possessed technology to soften stone and move massive blocks as if they were lightweight. When the Spanish conquistadors asked how such massive stones could have been transported and fitted so perfectly, the Inca reportedly said that the stones walked or were carried through the air to their current positions, perhaps a mythologized memory of advanced technology they no longer understood. The stylistic differences between the megalithic lower walls of Sacsayhuaman and the smaller, more conventional Inca stonework above them suggest two distinct construction periods by two different cultures, with vastly different technological capabilities. Modern engineers have calculated that some of the largest blocks at Sacsayhuaman would require dozens of modern construction vehicles and hundreds of workers to move today. Yet we're expected to believe they were somehow transported up steep mountain slopes using only logs, ropes, and human labor. The precision cutting of the complex angles and perfectly matched surfaces would require advanced measuring tools and cutting equipment that the Incas simply didn't possess, according to conventional history. Some researchers have suggested that the builders of Sacsayhuaman's lower walls may have possessed a now-lost technology that allowed them to soften or mold stone in some way, a technology that might explain both the transport of such massive blocks and the perfect fitting of such complex shapes. Could Sacsayhuaman's lower walls be the remnants of a pre-flood civilization that possessed technological capabilities far beyond what conventional archaeology attributes to ancient cultures? A civilization that was perhaps wiped out in a global cataclysm, with only their most massive and durable structures surviving to be later built upon by subsequent cultures, like the Inca. The evidence is literally set in stone, challenging us to reconsider our understanding of what was possible in the ancient world and who might have possessed such capabilities. Now let's travel to the ancient city of Nan Madol, often called the Venice of the Pacific, located on the eastern shore of the island of Pohnpei in Micronesia. This mysterious city consists of a series of small artificial islands linked by a network of canals and is built entirely of enormous basalt pillars and boulders. Some of these basalt logs weigh up to 50 tons and are stacked like massive Lincoln logs to create walls up to 25 feet high. What makes Nan Madol truly perplexing is its location and the source of its building materials. The city is constructed from an estimated 750,000 tons of basalt, yet there are no quarries on the island large enough to have supplied such quantities. The basalt columns appear to have been transported from quarries on the opposite side of the island, over rugged terrain, with no roads or rivers to facilitate movement. How did the builders transport these massive stone pillars across the island, and then stack them with such precision to create a city of artificial islands? The conventional explanation that they were floated on rafts made of native trees seems inadequate, given the weight of the stones and the distance they needed to be transported. Local legends claim that the stones were flown to the site using magic, carried by a thunderbird, or that the stones themselves were animated and moved into place on command. These legends might be mythologized memories of advanced technology that the local population didn't understand. Archaeologists date the construction of Nan Madol to around 1200 to 1500 CE, but these dates are primarily based on carbon dating of organic materials found within the structures, which may only indicate when they were last occupied or modified, not when they were originally built. Some researchers have pointed out that the megalithic nature of Nan Madol seems out of place for a culture that supposedly lacked metallurgy, the wheel, or even pottery. The engineering skills required to quarry, transport, and stack these massive basalt columns with such precision suggests a level of technological sophistication that contradicts the conventional understanding of Micronesian capabilities at that time. Even more intriguing is the purpose of Nan Madol. The massive amount of labor and resources required to build this sprawling complex seems completely out of proportion to the needs of the small population it supposedly served. Why would a relatively small island culture invest such enormous effort into building a city of artificial islands using megalithic stones weighing tens of tons each? Some researchers have suggested that Nan Madol may be much older than conventionally believed, possibly dating back to a pre-flood period when sea levels were lower, and the site might have had a different relationship to the shoreline. The peculiar construction technique using cross-stacked basalt columns is reminiscent of other megalithic sites around the world, suggesting a possible connection to a global megalithic building tradition that may have existed before recorded history. Could Nan Madol be another surviving fragment of a once global pre-flood civilization, one that possessed the technological capabilities to quarry, transport, and precisely position megalithic stones in ways that we still struggle to explain? The mystery of Nan Madol reminds us that unexplained megalithic structures aren't limited to the well-known sites of Egypt, Peru, and Turkey, but are truly a global phenomenon requiring a global explanation. Let's now turn our attention to one of the most enigmatic and least understood megalithic sites in the world, the massive stone spheres of Costa Rica. Scattered throughout the Dicas Delta of southern Costa Rica are hundreds of perfectly carved stone spheres, ranging in size from a few centimeters to over 2.5 meters in diameter and weighing up to 16 tons. These spheres are among the most precisely shaped stone objects found anywhere in the world, with some deviating from perfect sphericity by less than 2 millimeters, a level of precision that would be challenging to achieve even with modern technology. The spheres are carved from granodiorite, a hard igneous stone similar to granite, which would have required sophisticated tools to shape with such precision. Yet conventional archaeology tells us they were created by the pre-Columbian Dicas culture between 300 BCE and 300 CE, using nothing more than stone hammers and chisels. The purpose of these perfectly carved spheres remains a complete mystery. Unlike pyramids or temples, their function isn't readily apparent, and there are no similar objects in other ancient cultures that might provide clues to their use. Some were found arranged in geometric patterns, like triangles, rectangles, and straight lines, suggesting they may have had some astronomical or mathematical significance. Others were placed at entrances to chiefly residences or in prominent public spaces, perhaps serving as symbols of power or status. But here's what makes the Costa Rican spheres truly perplexing. The level of mathematical knowledge required to conceptualize and execute a perfect sphere of such size, particularly without the aid of modern measuring tools, is far beyond what the pre-Columbian cultures of the region are believed to have possessed. Creating a perfect sphere is one of the most challenging geometric tasks in stonemasonry, requiring a sophisticated understanding of three-dimensional geometry and extremely precise measuring techniques. Even slight errors in the carving process would result in asymmetries that would become increasingly apparent as work progressed. Yet these ancient stoneworkers somehow managed to create spheres so perfect that they continue to amaze modern engineers. The transportation of these massive objects is another unsolved mystery. Some of the spheres were moved many kilometers from their quarry sites and placed in precise arrangements, despite weighing many tons in the region lacking beasts of burden or wheeled vehicles. Unfortunately, many of the spheres have been moved from their original positions over the centuries, making it difficult to determine if they once formed a larger pattern that might have revealed their purpose. Some researchers have suggested they may have been used as astronomical markers, calendar devices, or navigation tools. Others propose they represented celestial objects, with their arrangements mirroring constellations or planetary alignments. Could these perfect stone spheres be the product of a pre-flood civilization that possessed mathematical knowledge and stoneworking technology far beyond what conventional history attributes to pre-Columbian cultures? A civilization with the capability to conceptualize, measure, and execute geometric perfection in stone on a massive scale. The mystery of the Costa Rican stone spheres reminds us that our ancient past holds technological achievements that continue to defy conventional explanation. Let's now travel to India, where the ancient Kalasa temple at Ellora stands as one of the most astonishing architectural achievements in human history. Unlike conventional temples that are built from the ground up, the Kalasa temple was carved out of a solid rock cliff, from the top down, requiring the removal of an estimated 400,000 tons of rock. The temple complex covers an area twice the size of the Parthenon in Athens and is 1.5 times as tall, making it one of the largest monolithic structures in the world. What makes the Kalasa temple truly mind-boggling is not just its size, but the precision of its execution and the relatively short time in which it was supposedly completed. According to historical records, the temple was commissioned by King Krishna of the Rashtrakuta dynasty around 756-773 CE and was completed in just 18 years. The mathematics of this timeline simply don't add up. Removing 400,000 tons of rock in 18 years, using only hammers, chisels, and picks would require extracting and hauling away more than 60 tons of rock per day, every day, without breaks. This seems physically impossible given the technology believed to have been available at the time. Even more perplexing is the precision of the carving. The temple features intricate sculptures, detailed reliefs, and perfectly proportioned architectural elements, all carved with remarkable symmetry and consistency. The level of planning required is staggering. The entire structure had to be visualized in reverse, with no room for significant errors, as one cannot add back rock once it has been carved away. Engineers who have studied the site have noted that even with modern technology, such a project would be extraordinarily difficult to execute. With ancient technology, it seems almost impossible. Some researchers have suggested that the builders must have possessed technologies or techniques that have been lost to time, perhaps methods to soften or cut stone more efficiently than we currently recognize as having existed in that era. Ancient Indian texts speak of advanced technologies possessed by the gods and godlike beings of previous ages, including tools that could cut through stone like butter. Could these references be mythologized memories of actual technologies possessed by a pre-flood civilization? Interestingly, the Kailasa temple shows no signs of experimentation or progressive skill development. It emerges in its full complexity, with no evident precursors or prototypes, suggesting that its creators were already master stoneworkers with a fully developed skill set when they began the project. Some researchers have proposed that the temple may be much older than conventionally believed, with the attribution to King Krishna representing a later claim rather than historical fact. Could the Kailasa temple be another surviving remnant of a pre-flood civilization that possessed stoneworking capabilities far beyond what conventional history acknowledges? A civilization whose most impressive achievements were later attributed to more recent cultures after the original builders had vanished from historical memory. The mystery of the Kailasa temple forces us to question our assumptions about what was technologically possible in the ancient world and who might have possessed such capabilities. Now let's examine one of the most puzzling archaeological sites in North America, the massive ancient copper mines of Michigan's Upper Peninsula. Between 5,000 and 7,000 years ago, someone extracted an estimated 500,000 tons of copper from this region, an undertaking that would have required tens of thousands of workers over many centuries. Yet mysteriously, this copper seems to have vanished from the archaeological record. When European explorers first surveyed the area in the 1800s, they discovered thousands of ancient mining pits, some up to 30 feet deep, along with stone hammers, wooden shovels, and other mining implements. Carbon dating of wooden tools found in the mines dates the operations to between 3000 and 5000 BCE, thousands of years before the rise of metalworking cultures in North America, according to conventional history. The scale of these mining operations is what makes them truly baffling. Archaeologists estimate that it would have taken a workforce of 10,000 miners working for 1,000 years to extract the amount of copper that was removed from these mines. Yet there's no evidence of settlements large enough to support such a massive operation in the region during that time period. Even more perplexing is the question of where all that copper went. The amount extracted, some 500,000 tons, would be enough to supply all the Bronze Age cultures of Europe and the Middle East for hundreds of years. Yet only a tiny fraction of this copper has been accounted for in North American artifacts. Some researchers have suggested that the copper may have been transported overseas, perhaps to Bronze Age civilizations in Europe, the Middle East, or even Egypt, where copper was highly valued for tools, weapons, and decorative objects. Analysis of European Bronze Age artifacts has shown that some contain copper with the same chemical signature as the Michigan deposits, lending some support to this theory. But this raises even more questions. How did ancient peoples transport such massive quantities of copper across the Atlantic Ocean thousands of years before conventional history acknowledges transoceanic contact? Who organized and directed such a massive mining operation? And why is there so little historical or archaeological evidence of this apparently extensive trade network? Some researchers have proposed that the Michigan copper mines may be evidence of a pre-flood global civilization, one that possessed the navigational skills, organizational capacity, and technological knowledge to undertake industrial-scale mining operations and transport the materials across vast distances. A civilization that was perhaps wiped out in a global cataclysm, leaving only the most durable evidence of their activities, like the mines themselves, for us to discover millennia later. The mystery of the ancient Michigan copper mines challenges our understanding of prehistoric North America and suggests connections to the wider ancient world that conventional archaeology has been reluctant to acknowledge. Now, let's journey to Malta, where the ancient megalithic temples present us with some of the most enigmatic structures in the Mediterranean. The Maltese temples, including Egantija, Ahar Tim, Minajra, and Tarxian, are among the oldest freestanding stone structures in the world, dating to between 3600 and 2500 BCE, predating even the Great Pyramid of Giza. What makes these temples truly remarkable is their sophisticated design and construction using massive limestone blocks, some weighing over 50 tons. The temples feature complex floor plans with multiple apses, astronomical alignments, sophisticated acoustic properties, and evidence of advanced knowledge of mathematics and geometry. The precision with which some of the stones are cut and fitted is comparable to other megalithic sites around the world, with perfect joining that has allowed the structures to survive for over 5,000 years, despite Malta's seismic activity. But here's where the mystery deepens. The temples were supposedly built by a prehistoric culture that left no written records, possessed no metal tools, according to conventional archaeology, and had no access to beasts of burden to help move the massive stones. Yet somehow they quarried, transported, and precisely positioned limestone blocks, weighing many tons to create structures of remarkable sophistication and durability. Even more perplexing is the sudden appearance and equally sudden disappearance of this temple-building culture. The megalithic temple tradition in Malta emerged fully formed, with no evident precursors or period of development, and then vanished completely around 2500 BCE, leaving the islands apparently abandoned for several centuries. What could cause an entire civilization to suddenly cease all temple-building activities and potentially abandon their islands altogether? Some researchers have suggested a catastrophic environmental event, perhaps a sudden change in sea level or climate, might have rendered Malta uninhabitable for a time. Interestingly, this timeframe roughly coincides with what some researchers identify as a period of abrupt climate change and flooding events in the Mediterranean region. Could the end of Malta's temple-building culture be connected to the same cataclysmic events that show up in flood myths around the world? Another fascinating aspect of the Maltese temples is their connection to the mysterious cart ruts that crisscross the islands. These parallel grooves cut into the bedrock appear to be ancient roadways, but their true purpose and the technology used to create them remain unknown. Some of the cart ruts lay directly into the sea, continuing underwater off the coast of Malta, suggesting they were created when sea levels were lower, potentially thousands of years before the currently accepted dates for the temples themselves. Could the Maltese temples be the surviving remnants of a much older pre-flood civilization that once occupied a larger landmass in the Mediterranean when sea levels were lower? A civilization whose most durable structures survived subsequent flooding events, only to be reused and modified by later cultures. The mystery of Malta's megalithic temples forces us to question our assumptions about prehistoric Mediterranean cultures and the possibility of advanced civilizations existing long before conventional history acknowledges. Let's now turn our attention to Turkey once again, where the ancient site of Derinkuyu presents us with an entirely different kind of megastructure, one that extends deep underground. Derinkuyu is the largest of more than 200 underground cities discovered in the Cappadocia region, descending at least 18 levels and 85 meters 280 feet below the surface. This massive subterranean complex could accommodate up to 20,000 people, along with their livestock, food stores, and all necessary facilities for long-term underground survival. The engineering involved in creating Derinkuyu is nothing short of astonishing. The builders excavated approximately 1.5 million cubic feet of rock, created a ventilation system of over 50 shafts to ensure fresh air reached all levels, and incorporated wells that provided fresh water independent of surface sources. The city features thousands of separate rooms, including living quarters, stables, churches, storage rooms, oil and wine presses, and communal spaces, all connected by miles of tunnels and passages. Perhaps most impressive is the security system. Each level could be sealed off from the others, using massive stone doors, circular blocks, weighing up to a ton each that could be rolled into place from the inside, but were nearly impossible to move from the outside. The conventional explanation is that Derinkuyu was built by early Christians hiding from Roman persecution, or by Byzantine Greeks seeking shelter from Arab Muslim invaders, sometime between the 7th and 10th centuries CE. But this timeline is problematic for several reasons. The scale and sophistication of Derinkuyu suggest it was built by engineers with advanced knowledge of architecture, ventilation systems, water management, and security design, knowledge that seems beyond what would have been available to local populations during the proposed timeframe. The amount of excavated material, 1.5 million cubic feet of solid rock, would represent an almost impossible undertaking for a population under threat, needing to both hide their activities from pursuers and continue producing food and other necessities. Even more perplexing is the question of where all the excavated rock went. There are no equivalent mounds of tailings in the region that would account for such a massive excavation project. Some researchers have suggested that Derinkuyu and the other underground cities of Cappadocia may be much older than conventionally believed, possibly dating back to the last ice age or earlier. Ancient Hittite texts mention subterranean hiding places in the region dating to at least 1800 to 1200 BCE, and local legends speak of underground cities built by giants in the distant past. What if Derinkuyu was originally built not as a temporary hiding place, but as a long-term shelter from a global cataclysm, like the Great Flood described in so many ancient traditions? The design of the complex, with its emphasis on long-term sustainability, protection from outside threats, and complete self-sufficiency, would make perfect sense as a shelter designed to protect its inhabitants from a worldwide catastrophe. Interestingly, many ancient flood myths specify that certain chosen people were warned in advance and instructed to prepare shelters to survive the coming deluge. Could Derinkuyu be evidence of such preparations, a massive ark built not to float on the waters, but to survive safely beneath them? The mystery of Derinkuyu challenges us to reconsider our understanding of ancient engineering capabilities and the possible motivations behind such a massive underground construction project. Now let's travel to the other side of the world, where the enigmatic moai statues of Easter Island present us with another megalithic mystery. Standing up to 33 feet tall and weighing as much as 80 tons, these 887 stone giants were carved from solid volcanic tuff and somehow transported up to 11 miles across the island to their final positions, many standing on massive stone platforms called ahu. The conventional explanation that they were carved using stone tools, moved by teams of people using ropes and wooden rollers, and erected using ramps and levers, seems inadequate given the size and weight of the statues and the limited resources available on the small, isolated island. Recent archaeological evidence suggests the statues were walked to their final positions using ropes and teams of people rocking them from side to side. A clever solution, but one that still would have required enormous manpower and resources. But here's where the mystery deepens. When European explorers first arrived on Easter Island in 1722, they found a small population of islanders living in primitive conditions, with limited resources and no memory of how their ancestors had carved, transported, or erected the massive statues. The island was largely deforested, with little of the timber that would have been necessary for moving the moai using conventional methods. This has led to the popular theory that the Easter Islanders engaged in massive deforestation to facilitate moving the statues, leading to ecological collapse and the downfall of their civilization. But recent research has called this theory into question, suggesting that the island's ecological challenges may have been caused by other factors, including the introduction of the Polynesian rat, which prevented forest regeneration by consuming tree seeds. Some researchers have proposed an alternative theory that Easter Island was once much larger, perhaps even part of a now submerged landmass, and that the moai were carved and erected when the island had far more resources and population than it did in historical times. Geological evidence indicates that Easter Island is just the peak of a massive submarine mountain, part of a much larger volcanic structure that extends far below the current sea level. Could parts of this structure have been above water in the distant past, perhaps before the end of the last ice age, when sea levels were much lower? Interestingly, many of the ahu platforms on which the moai stand are located right at the current shoreline, with some now partially submerged by rising sea levels. This positioning makes little sense if they were built when the island had its current dimensions, but would be logical if they were originally constructed further inland on a larger landmass. The mysterious Rongorongo script found on wooden tablets on Easter Island, one of the few written languages in Oceania and still undeciphered, contains symbols that some researchers believe may reference lost lands and cosmic catastrophes. Could the moai be the last visible remnants of a once larger civilization that occupied Easter Island before rising sea levels reduced it to its current size? A civilization with the population, resources, and technological knowledge to quarry, carve, and transport these massive stone figures as part of a complex cultural and religious tradition. The mystery of Easter Island's moai forces us to question our assumptions about Polynesian prehistory and the possibility of advanced civilizations existing in the Pacific long before conventional history acknowledges. Now let's dive into one of the most controversial archaeological sites in North America, the underwater structures in Rock Lake, Wisconsin. Located about 20 miles east of Madison, Rock Lake has been the subject of intense speculation since at least the 1830s, when settlers reported seeing bizarre geometric structures beneath its waters. In the 1900s, divers began exploring these structures, describing what appeared to be pyramids, walls, and cone-shaped mounds made of stone blocks, all sitting at depths of 10 to 30 feet below the surface. The most well-documented structure, known as the Limnatus Pyramid, is a truncated pyramid approximately 60 feet wide at its base, 30 feet wide at its flat top, and standing about 10 feet high, composed of apparent stone blocks laid in regular courses. Nearby, researchers have identified what appears to be a 300-foot-long, 100-foot-wide structure they've dubbed the Aztlan Pyramid, along with various other geometric formations. Side-scan sonar surveys conducted in the 1980s and 1990s confirmed the presence of regular geometric structures on the lake bottom that don't appear to be natural formations. Conventional archaeology has generally ignored or dismissed these structures, suggesting they might be natural formations, or the result of 19th century farmers dumping stones cleared from their fields into the lake. But these explanations fail to account for the regular geometric arrangement of the stones and the pyramid-like shapes that have been documented by multiple independent researchers. What makes the rock lake structures particularly intriguing is their potential connection to the nearby Aztlan site, a prehistoric settlement occupied between 1000 and 1300 CE by people of the Mississippian culture, known for building large earthen pyramids similar to those found at Cahokia in Illinois. Some researchers have suggested that the underwater structures in Rock Lake may be much older than the Aztlan settlement, possibly dating back to a time when the lake level was much lower, allowing for construction on what is now the lake bed. If these structures were indeed built on dry land that was subsequently flooded, this could point to a significant climatic or hydrological event that raised the water level in the region, perhaps connected to the melting glaciers at the end of the last ice age, or to catastrophic flooding events that appear in Native American oral traditions. Native American legends from the region speak of a lost city that once stood where Rock Lake is now located, destroyed by a great flood as punishment from the gods. Could these legends be cultural memories of actual prehistoric structures that were inundated when water levels rose dramatically in the region? The underwater structures in Rock Lake represent one of many submerged sites around the world that challenge our understanding of ancient history and the timeline of advanced human civilizations. If verified as artificial structures, they would provide compelling evidence for the existence of sophisticated building techniques in North America, far earlier than conventional archaeology currently acknowledges. Now let's examine another controversial underwater site, the structures in Lake Titicaca, straddling the border between Peru and Bolivia. Sitting at an elevation of 12,507 feet above sea level, Lake Titicaca is the highest navigable lake in the world and has long been central to Andean mythology, considered the birthplace of civilization according to Inca legend. In 2000, an international archaeological team discovered an ancient temple submerged under about 100 feet of water near the Island of the Sun. The underwater structure measures approximately 660 feet long by 160 feet wide and includes a terracotta platform, a long wall, and a 600-foot-long structure that appears to be a causeway or road leading to the temple. Divers also recovered numerous artifacts from the site, including ceramic vessels, stone objects, and gold items, confirming human activity at the location. What makes this discovery truly perplexing is its location deep beneath the current lake level. For this structure to have been built on dry land, the water level of Lake Titicaca would need to have been at least 100 feet lower than it is today. Geological studies of lake sediments indicate that Lake Titicaca has experienced significant fluctuations in water level over the millennia, with evidence suggesting it was indeed much lower at certain periods in the distant past. But the time frame for these lower water levels, potentially 10,000 to 15,000 years ago, places the underwater structures far earlier than conventional archaeology acknowledges for advanced civilization in the Andes. In 2013, further explorations of the lake bottom revealed additional structures, including what appears to be a submerged road network, terraced agricultural fields, and stone structures that may have been dwellings or ceremonial sites. These discoveries suggest not just an isolated temple, but an entire landscape of human habitation and agriculture now hidden beneath the waters of the lake. Some researchers have connected these underwater findings to the enigmatic Tiwanaku civilization, whose magnificent ruins stand near the southern shore of Lake Titicaca. While conventional archaeology dates Tiwanaku to between 300 CE and 1000 CE, some researchers have suggested it may be much older, pointing to astronomical alignments at the site that would only have been accurate around 15,000 BCE. Could the underwater structures in Lake Titicaca be remnants of an early phase of Tiwanaku civilization, one that existed when lake levels were much lower, perhaps before a catastrophic flooding event raised the water to its current level? Interestingly, Andean legends speak of multiple creations and destructions of the world, with the current world being preceded by one that was destroyed by a great flood. The creator god Varcocha is said to have emerged from Lake Titicaca after this flood to begin the current age of humanity. Could these myths be cultural memories of actual prehistoric structures that were inundated when water levels rose dramatically in the region? The underwater discoveries in Lake Titicaca challenge us to reconsider the timeline of advanced civilization in the Andes and the possibility of sophisticated societies existing in the region far earlier than conventional archaeology currently acknowledges. Now let's explore one of the most enigmatic archaeological sites in the United States, the Newark Earthworks in Ohio. Once covering more than 4 square miles, the Newark Earthworks is the largest geometric earthwork complex in the world, consisting of massive walls, perfect circles, octagons, and other geometric shapes built with astonishing precision. The most striking feature is the Great Circle, a nearly perfect circular embankment, 1,200 feet in diameter, with walls 8 feet high and a moat 50 feet wide on the inside of the circle. Nearby, the octagon earthworks consists of a perfect octagon connected to a perfect circle by a walled pathway, with the entire complex covering an area equivalent to 100 football fields. What makes the Newark earthworks truly mind-boggling is the precision of their geometry and their sophisticated astronomical alignments. The octagon, for example, is precisely aligned to track the complex 18.6-year lunar cycle, with its walls marking the northernmost and southernmost risings of the moon, a phenomenon that takes nearly 2 decades to observe in its entirety. The mathematical knowledge required to lay out such perfect geometric shapes on such a massive scale and to incorporate such precise astronomical alignments represents a level of sophistication that shouldn't have existed in North America around 100 BCE to 400 CE, when conventional archaeology dates these structures. How did the builders measure and lay out perfect circles and octagons covering hundreds of acres without modern surveying equipment? How did they track and record astronomical cycles that take nearly 2 decades to complete? And why would a supposedly simple society of hunters and gatherers invest such enormous effort in creating geometric earthworks with such precise mathematical and astronomical properties? The conventional attribution of the Newark earthworks to the Hopewell culture raises more questions than it answers. The Hopewell are traditionally described as loosely connected groups of hunter-gatherers and beginning farmers who lacked urban centers, writing systems, or advanced mathematical knowledge. Yet the earthworks they supposedly built demonstrate a sophisticated understanding of geometry, astronomy, and large-scale engineering that seems completely at odds with this characterization. Some researchers have suggested that the Newark earthworks and similar sites throughout the Ohio Valley may be evidence of a much more advanced civilization than conventional archaeology acknowledges, one that possessed significant mathematical and astronomical knowledge, sophisticated measuring techniques, and the social organization necessary to mobilize large workforces for monumental construction projects. Others have proposed connections to ancient Old World civilizations, pointing to similarities between the geometric principles and astronomical alignments found at Newark and those seen in ancient European, Middle Eastern, and North African megaliths. Could the Newark earthworks be evidence of a pre-flood global civilization, one that possessed advanced mathematical and astronomical knowledge and expressed it through massive earthworks and stone monuments around the world? A civilization whose most durable works survived a global cataclysm to be discovered and marveled at by subsequent cultures who had lost the knowledge of their original purpose and meaning. The mystery of the Newark earthworks challenges us to reconsider our understanding of prehistoric North America and the level of sophistication that may have existed on the continent long before European contact. Let's now journey to China, where the newly discovered underwater city in Qiandao Lake presents us with yet another submerged megalithic mystery. In 2001, Chinese government divers discovered an ancient city beneath the waters of Qiandao Lake, also known as Thousand Island Lake, in Zhejiang Province, about 250 miles south of Shanghai. The underwater complex covers nearly 62 football fields in area and includes intact buildings, wide streets, stone memorial arches, and 5 entry gates, all preserved in remarkable condition due to the clean, deep water. The stonework is exquisite, with perfectly fitted blocks forming elaborate structures, decorated with intricate carvings of mythological creatures, guardian lions, and phoenixes. The city features a wide imperial road, flanked by buildings that show evidence of advanced architectural knowledge, including complex arches and domed structures that would have required sophisticated engineering skills to construct. What makes this underwater city particularly intriguing is its age and the circumstances of its submergence. Records indicate that the city, known as Xicheng Lion City, was deliberately flooded in 1959 during the construction of the Xinan River Dam, which created Qiandao Lake. However, recent archaeological evidence suggests that the foundations of the city may be much older than previously thought, possibly dating back to the Han Dynasty, 206 BCE, 220 CE, or even earlier. Some of the underwater structures appear to be built upon older megalithic foundations that show different construction techniques than the more recent buildings above them. This layering of construction is common at ancient sites around the world, where successive civilizations build upon the foundations left by earlier cultures. The deliberate flooding of Shishang in recent times provides a modern parallel to what may have happened to many ancient cities worldwide during catastrophic flooding events in the distant past. Just as Shoucheng now sits perfectly preserved beneath Qiandao Lake, how many other ancient cities might lie beneath our oceans, lakes, and reservoirs, their structures intact but hidden from view by hundreds of feet of water? The underwater city in Qiandao Lake offers a unique opportunity to study what happens to stone structures when they're suddenly submerged, how they're preserved, what changes they undergo, and how they appear to modern detection methods. This knowledge could help archaeologists identify and study other, much older submerged sites around the world. As technology advances and underwater archaeology becomes more sophisticated, sites like the submerged city in Qiandao Lake may help us develop the tools and techniques needed to explore what might be the largest untapped archaeological resource on our planet: the millions of square miles of continental shelf that were above water during the last ice age, but are now submerged beneath our oceans. Could these currently unexplored submarine landscapes hold the answers to many of history's greatest mysteries, including evidence of advanced pre-flood civilizations that were lost when sea levels rose dramatically at the end of the last ice age? The mystery of Qiandao Lake reminds us that what lies beneath the waters may be just as important to understanding our past as what remains above them. Now let's explore the enigmatic megalithic jars of Laos, massive stone containers scattered across the plain of jars in the Sian Quang Plateau of northern Laos. More than 2,100 of these stone jars have been documented, ranging in size from 3 to 10 feet tall and weighing up to 14 tons each. They are carved from solid rock, primarily sandstone, granite, and limestone, and appear to have been transported from quarries up to 10 kilometers away. What makes the plain of jars truly perplexing is not just the size and weight of these massive stone containers, but their purpose and the identity of their creators. Conventional archaeology has struggled to explain who made these jars, how they moved them to their current locations, and what they were used for. Carbon dating of organic materials found near some of the jars suggests they were placed there between 500 BCE and 500 CE, but the jars themselves could be much older. The local Lapalcine people have no historical memory of who created the jars or why, suggesting they predate the current ethnic groups in the region. Various theories have been proposed for their purpose, from ancient burial urns to food storage containers to water collection systems, but none fully explains their massive size or the tremendous effort required to create and transport them. Recent archaeological excavations have found human remains near some of the jars, leading to the theory that they were used in a secondary burial practice, where bodies were first cremated or otherwise decomposed before the remains were placed in or near the jars. But this theory doesn't explain why such massive stone containers would be needed for this purpose, or how a supposedly primitive culture managed to quarry, carve, and transport stone objects weighing many tons. Some researchers have noted similarities between the plain of jars and other megalithic sites around the world, suggesting they may be part of a once global tradition of megalithic construction that existed before recorded history. The technical challenges involved in creating these jars are substantial. Carving a hollow container from solid rock using only primitive tools would be extremely difficult and time-consuming. Transporting objects weighing many tons across hilly terrain without wheeled vehicles or beasts of burden would require sophisticated engineering knowledge and tremendous manpower. Yet according to conventional history, the cultures of this region during the proposed timeframe had neither the population density nor the technological sophistication to accomplish such feats. Could the plain of jars be evidence of a much older, more technologically advanced civilization that existed in Southeast Asia before recorded history? A civilization that possessed the knowledge and capabilities to quarry, carve, and transport massive stone objects for purposes we can now only guess at. The mystery of Laos's megalithic jars challenges us to reconsider our understanding of prehistoric Southeast Asia and the level of technological sophistication that may have existed in the region thousands of years ago. Let's now turn our attention to one of the most spectacular and mysterious ancient sites in North Africa, the ruins of Tassili and Ager in southeastern Algeria. Spread across a vast plateau in the Sahara Desert, Tassili and Ager contains more than 15,000 prehistoric rock paintings and engravings dating back as far as 12,000 years. These remarkable artworks depict a Sahara very different from the desert we know today, a lush, green savanna teeming with wildlife, including elephants, giraffes, rhinos, and crocodiles, along with human figures engaged in swimming, boating, herding cattle, and other activities impossible in today's arid environment. What makes Tassili and Ager truly extraordinary is not just the quantity and quality of its prehistoric art, but what that art reveals about dramatic climate change in the region. The images provide irrefutable evidence that the Sahara once had a completely different climate and ecosystem, a fact confirmed by geological studies showing that the region experienced a wet phase from roughly 10,000 to 5,000 years ago, when increased monsoon rainfall transformed the desert into a savanna with numerous lakes and rivers. But here's where the mystery deepens. Among the thousands of relatively straightforward depictions of wildlife and human activities are bizarre images that have defied conventional explanation. These include what appear to be humanoid figures wearing what look remarkably like modern spacesuits, complete with helmets, gloves, and what might be interpreted as breathing apparatus or communication devices. Other paintings show what seem to be flying objects hovering over the landscape, unusual technological devices, and humanoid figures with disproportionately large, round heads that don't resemble any known human phenotype. These strange images, collectively known as the Martian paintings or the astronauts, have sparked heated debate among archaeologists, with conventional explanations suggesting they represent mythological beings, shamanic visions, or simply humans wearing ceremonial masks and costumes. But some researchers have proposed more controversial interpretations, suggesting the paintings might actually depict contact with non-human entities or advanced technology that existed in this region thousands of years ago. Equally puzzling are the paintings that seem to depict massive flooding events, images of people swimming or boating across what appear to be vast bodies of water in a region that is now one of the driest places on Earth. Could these be artistic representations of the catastrophic climate change that eventually transformed the Green Sahara back into a desert around 5,000 years ago? Or might they depict even earlier flooding events, perhaps connected to the end of the last ice age and the dramatic rise in sea levels that followed? Interestingly, North African folklore includes accounts of advanced civilizations that existed in the region before it became a desert, with some legends speaking of flying boats and beings with advanced knowledge who taught early humans agriculture, astronomy, and other sciences. Could the mysterious paintings of Tassili and Niger be artistic representations of cultural memories preserved in these legends? Memories of a time when the Sahara was not only green, but perhaps home to a technologically advanced civilization that was eventually driven out by catastrophic climate change. The mystery of Tassili and Niger challenges us to reconsider our understanding of prehistoric North Africa and the possibility that this now desolate region may once have been a cradle of advanced human civilization before environmental catastrophe transformed it into the desert we know today. Now let's explore one of the most controversial archaeological discoveries of recent decades, the Bosnian Pyramid Complex near Visoko, Bosnia and Herzegovina. In 2005, Bosnian-American researcher Semir Osmanagic claimed to have discovered several artificially constructed pyramids near the town of Visoko, including what he called the Pyramid of the Sun, which would be the largest pyramid structure in the world if confirmed as artificial. Rising approximately 720 feet high, the Pyramid of the Sun appears to have a remarkably precise geometric shape, with sides that align almost perfectly to the cardinal directions, and a flat top platform, unlike natural hills in the region. Excavations at the site have uncovered what Osmanagic and his team claim are artificial concrete blocks, a network of underground tunnels connecting the various pyramid-shaped hills and stone slabs with what appear to be ancient inscriptions. Perhaps most intriguingly, ground-penetrating radar and thermal imaging have detected what seem to be regularly spaced internal chambers and passageways within the structures, features not typically found in natural formations. The Bosnian pyramid controversy has sharply divided the archaeological community, with mainstream archaeologists dismissing the structures as natural hills and Osmanagic's finds as misinterpreted natural formations or even fabrications. But independent researchers who have visited the site have reported features difficult to explain as purely natural, including perfectly flat stone slabs forming what appear to be paved terraces on the pyramid faces, right-angled joins between stone blocks that seem too precise to be natural, an extensive network of tunnels with apparent supporting structures and air circulation systems, unusual electromagnetic and ultrasonic energy properties measured at specific points on the structures. Carbon dating of organic material found within the tunnels has yielded dates ranging from 5,000 to 30,000 years old, suggesting that if these structures are artificial, they would predate all known advanced civilizations in Europe by many thousands of years. What makes the Bosnian Pyramid Complex particularly significant to our exploration of pre-flood megastructures is its possible connection to ancient flood myths. Bosnian folklore includes accounts of a great flood that once covered the region with only the tops of the highest mountains visible above the waters. Could these pyramid-shaped structures have been built before such a flood event, perhaps as monuments meant to survive the coming deluge? Interestingly, the tunnels beneath the pyramids show evidence of having been deliberately backfilled in ancient times, with thousands of tons of loose material packed into what were originally open passageways. Why would anyone go to such enormous effort to fill in these tunnels, unless they were trying to protect them from some catastrophic event, perhaps a flood that would otherwise have filled them with water and sediment? Whether natural or artificial, the Bosnian Pyramid Complex represents one of the most intriguing archaeological controversies of our time, challenging us to keep an open mind about the possibility of advanced, prehistoric civilizations existing in regions where conventional archaeology has yet to acknowledge them. If artificial, these structures would rewrite the history of Europe and potentially provide compelling evidence for the existence of advanced, pre-flood civilizations far earlier than currently recognized. Let's now journey to the ancient site of Karahan Tepe in southeastern Turkey, a remarkable megalithic complex that has been dubbed the sister site to the more famous Göbekli Tepe we explored earlier. Discovered in 1997 but only excavated extensively since 2018, Karahan Tepe has already yielded astonishing finds that may be even more significant than those at Göbekli Tepe. Dating to approximately 11,000 years ago, the same period as Göbekli Tepe, Karahan Tepe features similar T-shaped pillars carved with intricate reliefs of animals and abstract symbols. But what makes Karahan Tepe particularly mind-boggling is that much of the site is carved directly from the bedrock itself. Unlike Göbekli Tepe, where the pillars were quarried and then erected, many of the structures at Karahan Tepe were carved in place from the living rock, requiring an entirely different level of planning and execution. One of the most remarkable features is a circular chamber with seats carved around its perimeter, and a 3D sculpture of a human head emerging from the rock in the center, all carved from the solid bedrock. The precision and artistry involved in creating these structures would be challenging even with modern tools, yet they were supposedly created by people who, according to conventional archaeology, had only stone tools and had not yet developed metallurgy, pottery, or even agriculture. The site also includes what archaeologists are calling 3D sculptures, anthropomorphic figures with human bodies and animal heads carved with remarkable skill and artistic vision. These sculptures suggest a sophisticated symbolic language and religious or cultural tradition that was already fully developed 11,000 years ago. But here's where the mystery deepens even further. Karahan Tepe, like Göbekli Tepe, was deliberately buried in ancient times, preserved under thousands of tons of earth that protected it for millennia. Why would an ancient people invest such tremendous effort to hide these remarkable structures? What were they trying to protect them from? The careful burial of both sites suggests their creators knew something was coming, something catastrophic enough to warrant the enormous effort required to entomb these massive complexes. Could this be connected to the flood events that appear in the myths and legends of cultures worldwide? Events that might have been triggered by the rapid melting of the Ice Age glaciers and the dramatic rise in sea levels that followed? The discovery of Karahan Tepe and other similar sites in the region, including Bankaklutarla, Harbitsuvan, Sefer Tepe, and Tasla Tepe, suggests that what we're seeing is not an isolated phenomenon, but evidence of a widespread and sophisticated culture that existed at the very end of the last ice age. A culture that possessed architectural, artistic, and engineering knowledge far beyond what conventional archaeology attributes to hunter-gatherer societies of that period. Could these sites be the remnants of a pre-flood civilization that existed during the final millennia of the Ice Age, only to be largely wiped out by the catastrophic flooding and climate changes that accompanied the Great Melt? A civilization whose most durable works were deliberately preserved by survivors who foresaw the coming cataclysm. The mysteries of Karahan Tepe and its sister sites challenge us to reconsider our understanding of what was possible 11,000 years ago in the sophisticated cultures that may have existed before the great floods changed the face of our planet. Now let's explore one of the most enigmatic megalithic sites in South America, the massive stone blocks of Sayhuite in Peru. Located on top of Sayhuite Hill in the Abancay province, this site is centered around the famous Sayhuite stone, a massive boulder approximately 7 feet long and 5 feet wide, carved with more than 200 intricate zoomorphic and geometric figures. What makes the Sayhuite stone truly remarkable is the precision and artistry of its carvings, which include animals, terraced fields, rivers, tunnels, and irrigation channels, all rendered in miniature with astonishing detail. Many researchers believe the stone represents a sophisticated three-dimensional model of an agricultural and hydraulic complex, essentially an engineer's scale model of a much larger system. The technical knowledge required to conceptualize and execute such a complex model suggests a highly advanced understanding of hydraulic engineering, agriculture, and landscape architecture. But the Sayhuite stone is just one element of a larger megalithic complex that includes massive stone blocks cut with the same incredible precision seen at other Peruvian sites like Sacsayhuaman. Some of these blocks feature perfect right angles, multiple angle cuts, and precisely drilled holes that would be challenging to create even with modern power tools. What makes Sehuate particularly perplexing is that its precisely cut megalithic blocks show no obvious purpose. They don't form walls or buildings, they're not arranged in clear patterns, and they seem to have been abandoned in the middle of whatever project they were intended for. It's as if the stonemasons suddenly stopped their work, leaving perfectly cut multi-ton blocks scattered across the hilltop. Conventional archaeology attributes Sehuate to the Inca civilization, suggesting it was an important ceremonial center related to water worship. But the technical sophistication evident in the stone cutting and the apparent abandonment of the site raise questions about this attribution. Some researchers have suggested that Sehuate, like many other Peruvian megalithic sites, may be the work of a much older pre-Inca civilization, one that possessed stoneworking technology far beyond what the Inca themselves could achieve. The Inca themselves supported this view, telling Spanish chroniclers that they didn't build the megalithic structures, but found them already standing when they rose to power. The scattered nature of the precisely cut blocks at Sehuate has led some researchers to propose that the site was abandoned suddenly, perhaps due to some catastrophic event. Could this be connected to the flood events that appear in Andean mythology and in the oral traditions of indigenous peoples throughout the Americas? Interestingly, the Sehuate stone itself appears to depict water flowing through various channels and structures, possibly representing not just an agricultural system, but the remembered path of floodwaters through an ancient landscape. Some have even suggested it might be a flood map, a three-dimensional record of how water transformed the land during a catastrophic deluge. The mystery of Sehuate challenges us to reconsider our understanding of ancient Andean civilizations, and the possibility that the region may have been home to advanced pre-Inca cultures with sophisticated engineering knowledge that was largely lost by the time the Inca rose to prominence. Let's now venture to the northeastern United States, where the enigmatic stone chambers of New England present us with a megalithic mystery much closer to home. Scattered throughout the forests and fields of New England are hundreds of mysterious stone structures built with massive slabs and boulders, many weighing several tons each. These structures include elaborate underground chambers, carefully constructed stone tunnels, unusual standing stones with apparent astronomical alignments, and what appear to be ceremonial stone circles. What makes these stone structures particularly perplexing is their unclear origin and purpose. Conventional explanations suggest they were built by colonial farmers as root cellars or storage chambers, but many characteristics of these sites contradict this theory. Many chambers are precisely aligned to mark astronomical events like solstices and equinoxes. Some incorporate massive capstones weighing 10 tons or more, far larger than necessary for simple farm storage. Many are found in remote areas, far from historical farmsteads. Carbon dating of organic material found in some chambers has yielded dates predating European settlement. Several chambers feature sophisticated corbelled roofs and drainage systems, suggesting advanced engineering knowledge. Native American oral traditions attribute many of these structures to ancient peoples who inhabited the region long before European contact, while others claim they were built by ancient visitors from across the Atlantic. Colonial records contain puzzling references to ancient stoneworks found by the earliest European settlers, suggesting at least some of these structures predated colonial settlement. Archaeological investigations have found artifacts of both Native American and apparently European origin in and around some chambers, further complicating attempts to determine who built them and when. Some researchers have noted striking similarities between the New England stone chambers and Neolithic structures found in Ireland, Scotland, and other parts of Western Europe, suggesting a possible cultural connection across the Atlantic thousands of years ago. Others point out alignments between certain chamber entrances and specific stellar events that would only have been accurate thousands of years in the past, potentially dating some chambers to the same period as European megalithic construction. What if some of these chambers were built by a pre-flood culture that once inhabited or visited northeastern North America, a culture with knowledge of astronomy, engineering, and stoneworking techniques similar to those found in the megalithic cultures of Europe? A culture whose most durable works survived subsequent flooding events and climate changes to be discovered and reused by later inhabitants of the region? The mystery of New England stone chambers challenges us to keep an open mind about the possibility of transatlantic contact or parallel development of megalithic building techniques in North America, long before conventional history acknowledges such capabilities in the region. Let's now explore one of the most enigmatic and least understood megalithic sites in Africa, the stone circles of Senegambia, straddling the border between Senegal and Gambia in West Africa. Spread across a vast area, these megalithic complexes include more than 1,000 stone circles, comprising over 29,000 stones, some weighing up to 10 tons each. The stones are primarily laterite monoliths, many standing over 2 meters high, arranged in perfect circles between 4 and 6 meters in diameter, with some complexes containing up to 52 separate circles. What makes the Senegambia stone circles truly perplexing is their age, number, and precise arrangement. Conventional archaeology dates them to between 300 BCE and 1600 CE, but the technical challenges involved in their construction raise questions about this timeline. How did the builders quarry, transport, and erect thousands of massive stone monoliths without the use of metal tools, wheeled vehicles, or beasts of burden, none of which were present in this region during the proposed timeframe? The precise circular arrangements suggest sophisticated measuring techniques and a clear understanding of geometry, while the uniformity of stones within certain circles indicates standardized quarrying and shaping methods that should have been beyond the technological capabilities of the region at that time. Archaeological excavations have found burials beneath some circles, suggesting they may have served funerary purposes, but this doesn't explain why such massive stones were necessary or how they were moved and arranged with such precision. Some researchers have noted alignments between certain stone circles and astronomical events, suggesting they may have also functioned as calendars or observatories, implying a sophisticated understanding of astronomy among their builders. The sheer number of stone circles in the region, far more than would seem necessary for a relatively small population, has led some researchers to suggest they may have been built over a much longer period than conventionally believed, perhaps dating back to a time before recorded history in the region. Could the Senegambia stone circles be the remnants of a much older pre-flood civilization that once thrived in West Africa? A civilization with the knowledge, resources, and social organization to undertake massive megalithic construction projects for purposes we can now only guess at. Interestingly, West African oral traditions speak of ancient times when the region was ruled by powerful kingdoms with advanced knowledge before catastrophic events including floods changed the course of their history. Could these legends preserve cultural memories of a more advanced pre-flood civilization that once inhabited the region, leaving only their most durable monuments as evidence of their existence? The mystery of the Senegambia stone circles challenges us to reconsider our understanding of prehistoric West Africa and the level of technological sophistication that may have existed in the region thousands of years ago. Now let's travel to the remote island of Sardinia in the Mediterranean, where the enigmatic, neuralgic civilization left behind some of the most puzzling megalithic structures in Europe. Between approximately 1800 BCE and 200 CE, the neuralgic people constructed more than 7,000 stone towers, called neuragi, across the island, along with elaborate sacred well temples, massive stone tombs known as giants' graves, and mysterious stone structures called giants' temples. What makes the neuralgic structures truly mind-boggling is their sophisticated engineering and the massive size of the stones used in their construction. The typical neuragi is a tower built with stones weighing several tons each, arranged in corbelled vaults that distribute weight with remarkable precision, allowing these structures to stand for thousands of years without mortar. Some of the largest, like Nuraghe Santu Antine, incorporate stones weighing over 10 tons and reach heights of 20 meters with multiple interior chambers and corridors arranged in complex patterns. The sacred well temples demonstrate an even more advanced understanding of engineering and geometry, with perfectly circular chambers and precise stone steps leading down to underground water sources. Some, like the well of Santa Cristina, are aligned to capture the light of the sun at specific astronomical events, such as the equinox, when sunlight illuminates the water at the bottom of the well in a spectacular display of ancient astronomical knowledge. But perhaps most perplexing are the so-called giants' graves, massive funerary structures consisting of enormous stone slabs arranged in the shape of an upside-down bull's head, with some capstones weighing over 15 tons. These structures, sometimes reaching lengths of 30 meters, seem vastly oversized for practical human burial needs, leading some researchers to question who exactly they were built for. The name giants' graves comes from local folklore, which attributes these structures to a race of giants who supposedly inhabited Sardinia in ancient times. Interestingly, archaeological excavations have found unusually large human remains in some of these tombs, though not of truly gigantic proportions. What's particularly puzzling about the neuralgic civilization is how a relatively small island population managed to construct thousands of massive stone structures over a period of about 2,000 years. The labor and resources required for such an enormous building program seem far beyond what the island's limited agricultural base could have supported. Some researchers have suggested that the neuralgic civilization may have been much older than conventionally believed, with its origins dating back to before the end of the last ice age, when Sardinia would have been connected to a larger landmass due to lower sea levels. Could the neuralgic structures be the remnants of a pre-flood Mediterranean civilization, one that possessed advanced engineering knowledge and the resources to undertake massive megalithic construction projects across what is now Sardinia? A civilization that was perhaps largely wiped out when rising sea levels at the end of the last ice age transformed a peninsula into an island, leaving only their most durable monuments as evidence of their existence. The mystery of Sardinia's megalithic structures challenges us to reconsider our understanding of prehistoric Mediterranean cultures and the level of technological sophistication that may have existed in the region, thousands of years before conventional history acknowledges. Now let's explore one of the most spectacular and least understood ancient sites in Bolivia, the megalithic ruins of Tiwanaku, which we mentioned briefly during our discussion of the underwater structures in Lake Titicaca. Sitting at an elevation of 12,500 feet on the Altiplano Plateau, Tiwanaku features some of the most precisely cut and fitted stone blocks in the world, along with massive monoliths, complex astronomical alignments, and evidence of advanced mathematical knowledge. What makes Tiwanaku truly mind-bending is the precision of its stonework and the massive size of some of its components. The Gateway of the Sun, for example, is carved from a single block of andesite weighing 10 tons, with intricate carvings so precise they appear to have been made with machine tools rather than primitive implements. Even more impressive is the Pumapunku complex within Tiwanaku, which features H-shaped blocks and perfectly straight-edged stone platforms weighing up to 800 tons, cut with such precision that the angles are perfect to within 1/30th of a degree. Modern engineers have stated that some of the stonework at Pumapunku would be difficult to replicate even with today's advanced technology. Conventional archaeology dates Tiwanaku to between 300 CE and 1000 CE, suggesting it was built by indigenous Andean peoples using stone tools and manual labor. But this explanation fails to account for several baffling aspects of the site. How did the builders quarry and transport stones weighing hundreds of tons across miles of rugged terrain at high altitude? How did they achieve such perfect right angles and smooth surfaces on one of the hardest types of stone, using only primitive tools? How did they create perfectly identical H-blocks and interlocking joints that suggest standardized mechanical production methods? Why does the site show evidence of catastrophic damage, with multi-ton blocks thrown hundreds of feet from their original positions? Some researchers, including Arthur Poznansky, who studied the site for 50 years, have proposed that Tiwanaku is much older than conventionally believed. Based on astronomical alignments at the Kalasasaya temple that would only have been accurate around 15,000 BCE, Poznansky suggested the site may have been constructed 17,000 years ago, long before advanced civilization is supposed to have existed in the Americas. Geological evidence indicates that the Altiplano region has experienced dramatic climate changes over the millennia, with periods when Lake Titicaca was much larger, potentially turning Tiwanaku into a port city rather than an inland settlement. Could Tiwanaku be the remnant of a pre-flood Andean civilization, one that possessed advanced technology and engineering knowledge far beyond what conventional archaeology attributes to pre-Columbian cultures? A civilization that was perhaps largely wiped out by catastrophic flooding and climate changes at the end of the last ice age, leaving only their most massive and durable structures as evidence of their existence. Interestingly, Andean legends speak of multiple creations and destructions of the world, with the current world being preceded by one that was destroyed by a great flood. Could these myths preserve cultural memories of a more advanced pre-flood civilization that once inhabited the region, leaving only their megalithic ruins as evidence of their existence? The mystery of Tiwanaku challenges us to reconsider our understanding of prehistoric South America and the level of technological sophistication that may have existed in the Andes, long before conventional history acknowledges. Let's now journey to Japan, where the enigmatic megalithic structures of Asuka challenge our understanding of ancient Japanese history and technology. Located in the Nara Prefecture, the Asuka region contains several massive stone structures that seem completely out of place in Japanese archaeological context, including perfectly carved granite monoliths weighing up to 100 tons. The most famous of these is the rock ship of Masuda. Masuda no Iwafune, an enormous block of granite measuring 11 meters long, 8 meters wide, and 4.5 meters high, weighing approximately 800 tons. This massive monolith has been precisely cut with flat surfaces, straight edges, and an unusual channel carved around its perimeter. What makes the rock ship and other Asuka megaliths truly perplexing is that they don't fit into any known Japanese architectural tradition and appear to have been created using technology that shouldn't have existed in Japan during the period to which they're conventionally dated, around 500 CE. The granite used in these structures doesn't come from the immediate area, meaning these enormous stones had to be transported significant distances, a feat that would be challenging even with modern equipment. The precision cutting of such hard stone would require advanced tools that the ancient Japanese are not known to have possessed. Yet these massive monoliths exist, defying conventional explanations. Another mysterious structure in the region is the Oni no Mana Ada, Devil's Cutting Board, a perfectly flat stone platform with precise right angles and expertly cut channels running across its surface. Some researchers have suggested it may have been used for astronomical observations or as some kind of precision measuring device, but its true purpose remains unknown. Similarly puzzling is the Sakafuni Ishi liquor boat stone, another precisely cut megalith with unusual channels and depressions carved into its surface with remarkable precision. Conventional archaeology struggles to explain these structures, sometimes suggesting they were merely unfinished stone coffins or ceremonial platforms. But their size, precision, and unique features have led some researchers to propose alternative theories. Some suggest these megaliths may be much older than conventionally believed, possibly dating back to a prehistoric Japanese civilization that possessed more advanced technology than is currently acknowledged. Others have noted similarities between the Azca megaliths and certain structures found in South America and Easter Island, proposing possible cultural connections across the Pacific in ancient times. Interestingly, Japanese mythology speaks of the Kami-Hokuzan, a holy place that sank beneath the seas in ancient times, and legends of the gods creating Japan after a great flood. Could these myths preserve cultural memories of a more advanced pre-flood civilization that once existed in the region, leaving only their most massive and durable structures as evidence of their existence? The mystery of the Azca megaliths challenges us to reconsider our understanding of prehistoric Japan and the possibility that the region may have been home to an advanced civilization far earlier than conventional history acknowledges. Now let's explore one of the most mysterious and controversial ancient sites in Nevada, the Sierra Nevada megaliths. Hidden in the rugged mountains of the Sierra Nevada range are what some researchers claim are massive cut stone blocks, precision-carved granite walls, and even pyramidal structures that appear to be the work of an unknown ancient civilization. These structures, primarily located on private land near Lake Tahoe, include enormous stone blocks with precise right angles, flat surfaces, and apparent tool marks that suggest artificial shaping rather than natural formation. Some of the largest blocks weigh an estimated 1,000 tons, and feature what appear to be precision cuts and drill holes, similar to those found at other megalithic sites around the world. What makes the Sierra Nevada megaliths particularly perplexing is their location in a region where no known Native American culture practiced megalithic construction. According to conventional archaeology, the indigenous peoples of the Sierra Nevada region were primarily hunter-gatherers who built temporary structures of wood and brush rather than massive stone monuments. Yet these enormous stone blocks exist, showing characteristics that appear decidedly artificial to those who have studied them firsthand. Some researchers have documented what they believe are precision-cut flat walls stretching for hundreds of feet, step pyramidal structures with perfect geometric proportions, and massive stone platforms with apparent astronomical alignments. Conventional geology dismisses these formations as natural jointing in the granite, a process where cooling magma naturally forms rectangular or cubic shapes due to stress patterns. But those who have examined the sites argue that many features, such as apparent drill holes, precision-cut corners, and massive blocks that appear to have been moved from their original positions, cannot be adequately explained as natural phenomena. Native American legends from the region speak of an ancient race of white-skinned giants who were the area's original inhabitants, building massive structures before being displaced by later peoples. Similar legends exist among various tribes across North America, often including accounts of these earlier inhabitants being wiped out by great floods or other catastrophes. Could these legends preserve cultural memories of a pre-flood civilization that once inhabited the Sierra Nevada region, leaving only their most massive and durable structures as evidence of their existence? Structures that were subsequently buried by landslides, covered by vegetation, or simply ignored and forgotten over the millennia. The controversy surrounding the Sierra Nevada megaliths highlights the challenge of distinguishing between natural formations and ancient artificial structures, especially when erosion, vegetation, and geological processes have had thousands of years to obscure the evidence. But it also reminds us that many of history's most significant archaeological discoveries were initially dismissed as natural formations or hoaxes before more thorough investigation revealed their true nature. The mystery of the Sierra Nevada megaliths challenges us to keep an open mind about the possibility of advanced prehistoric civilizations existing in North America long before conventional history acknowledges. Let's now journey to the remote island of Pohnpei in Micronesia, where we'll take a deeper look at the mysterious city of Nanmadol, which we briefly explored earlier. Built on a coral reef off the eastern shore of Pohnpei, Nanmadol consists of 92 artificial islands, constructed from an estimated 750,000 tons of prismatic basalt, creating a megalithic complex, often referred to as the Venice of the Pacific. What makes Nanmadol truly extraordinary is not just its size and complexity, but the massive scale of the individual basalt logs used in its construction, many weighing between 5 and 50 tons each. These enormous stones are stacked in a log cabin fashion to create walls up to 25 feet high and 17 feet thick, forming structures that have withstood typhoons, earthquakes, and the relentless Pacific waves for centuries. But here's where the mystery deepens even further. The basalt used to construct Nan Madol appears to have been quarried from sites on the opposite side of the island, up to 10 miles away across rugged, mountainous terrain with no natural waterways to facilitate transportation. How did the builders move hundreds of thousands of tons of massive stone columns across such challenging landscape without draft animals, wheels, or metal tools? The conventional explanation that they were floated on rafts made of native trees seems inadequate, given the weight of the stones and the distance they needed to be transported. Even more perplexing is the question of how the builders managed to stack these massive columns to heights of 25 feet or more without modern lifting equipment. The engineering knowledge required for such a feat suggests a level of technological sophistication that shouldn't have existed in Micronesia between 1200 to 1500 CE, when conventional archaeology dates the construction of Nan Madol. Some researchers have noted that certain portions of the complex currently sit underwater, suggesting they may have been built when sea levels were lower, potentially thousands of years earlier than the conventional dating. Local legends attribute the construction of Nan Madol to the mythical Saadlur dynasty, founded by twin sorcerers named Olisipa and Olosupa, who arrived from a distant land. According to the legends, these powerful beings used magic to fly the massive basalt logs through the air from the quarries to the construction site. Could these legends preserve cultural memories of advanced technology used by the actual builders, technology so far beyond the understanding of later inhabitants that it could only be described as magic? Archaeological evidence indicates that Nan Madol served as a ceremonial and political center for a ruling elite, with different islets designated for specific functions including food preparation, canoe building, coconut oil production, and mortuary practices. But the enormous investment of labor and resources required to build such a massive complex seems completely out of proportion to the needs of the small island population it served. Some researchers have suggested that Nan Madol may be evidence of an earlier, more technologically advanced civilization that once existed in the Pacific, perhaps part of a maritime culture that spanned much of the region before rising sea levels, at the end of the last ice age, submerged much of their territory. The mystery of Nan Madol challenges us to reconsider our understanding of prehistoric Pacific cultures and the possibility that the region may have been home to far more advanced civilizations than conventional history acknowledges. Now let's venture to Cambodia, where the ancient temple complex of Preah Vihear presents us with another megalithic mystery. Perched atop a 525-meter cliff in the Dangrek Mountains along the Cambodia-Thailand border, Preah Vihear features massive stone blocks weighing up to 10 tons, perfectly fitted together without mortar, to create a spectacular temple complex stretching nearly a kilometer along a north-south axis. What makes Preah Vihear truly perplexing is its location. The site sits atop a steep cliff with difficult access, raising the question of how the builders transported thousands of massive stone blocks up such challenging terrain without modern equipment. The conventional attribution of Preah Vihear to the Khmer civilization, built primarily during the 11th and 12th centuries CE, raises questions about how they accomplished such a feat with the technology available at that time. Even more puzzling is the precision stonework found in the oldest parts of the complex. Some of the earliest structures feature massive blocks, cut with perfect right angles and fitted together with such precision that not even a piece of paper can be inserted between them. A level of stoneworking that seems out of place in the conventional timeline of Khmer architectural development. Some researchers have noted that the oldest sections of Preah Vihear show a different construction style than later Khmer buildings, suggesting they may have been built by an earlier civilization and later modified and expanded by the Khmers. This pattern of later civilizations building upon the foundations left by earlier, more technologically advanced cultures is seen at ancient sites around the world. Interestingly, Cambodian mythology includes accounts of an earlier age when the gods themselves walked the earth and created mighty works, perhaps a mythologized memory of a more advanced prehistoric civilization. Could the oldest sections of Preah Vihear be remnants of a pre-flood civilization that once inhabited Southeast Asia? A civilization with the technological capabilities to quarry, transport, and precisely fit massive stone blocks in ways that later cultures could only imitate but not equal. The mystery of Preah Vihear challenges us to look beyond conventional archaeological attributions and consider the possibility that some of the world's most impressive ancient structures may be much older than currently believed. Let's now travel to the mysterious site of Yonaguni, Japan, to take a deeper look at the underwater monument we briefly explored earlier. Located off the coast of Yonaguni Island, the westernmost of the Ryukyu Islands, this massive underwater formation features what appear to be terrace structures, ramps, platforms, and even a stepped pyramid, all now submerged beneath 15 to 30 meters of water. The main structure measures approximately 150 meters long by 40 meters wide and rises about 27 meters from the seabed, with features including what appear to be perfectly straight walls, right angles, and carefully hewn steps. The ongoing debate about whether the Yonaguni Monument is natural or artificial centers on several key features that seem difficult to explain through natural processes alone. The terrace platforms with perfectly flat surfaces and sharp right angles. A precise straight-walled corridor measuring about 10 meters long. Multiple sets of perfectly uniform steps with identical heights and widths. A remarkable feature resembling a carved human face 7 meters tall. What appears to be a stone-paved road leading to the structure. Channels and drainage systems that seem designed to control water flow. Marine geologist Masaki Kimura, who has studied the monument for decades, believes these features are evidence of human modification, if not complete construction. He points to what he identifies as quarry marks, tool patterns, and even inscriptions as evidence that humans shaped what might have begun as a natural formation. Critics argue that the region's natural sandstone formations can fracture along straight lines and at right angles due to tectonic activity, potentially creating what only appears to be artificial structures. But even if the Yonaguni Monument began as a natural formation, the question remains, did an ancient people enhance and modify it for their own purposes? What makes this underwater site particularly significant to our exploration of pre-flood megastructures is its current location beneath the waves. For the Yonaguni Monument to have been constructed or modified by humans, it must have been done when the site was above water, which last occurred at least 10,000 years ago during the last ice age, when sea levels were much lower. This would place any human involvement thousands of years before the oldest known Japanese civilization and well before the development of the advanced stoneworking techniques necessary to create such a monument. Interestingly, ancient Japanese legends speak of Mo, a lost continent in the Pacific that sank beneath the waves after a great catastrophe. Could the Yonaguni Monument be evidence of this legendary civilization, a tangible remnant of a pre-flood world now hidden beneath the sea? If the Yonaguni Monument is indeed artificial, or even partially modified by human hands, it would provide compelling physical evidence for the existence of advanced civilizations before the end of the last ice age. Civilizations capable of sophisticated stoneworking and massive construction projects that were subsequently lost beneath the rising waters, as the ice age ended and global sea levels rose by more than 100 meters. The mystery of Yonaguni reminds us that some of the most significant evidence for pre-flood civilizations may now lie beneath our oceans, submerged but preserved, waiting to be discovered and understood. Now let's journey to northern Syria, where the ancient site of Tel Karkar has recently yielded evidence of a massive flood event that may corroborate ancient flood narratives. Archaeological excavations at Tel Khorus have uncovered a distinctive layer of sediment approximately 4 meters thick that bears all the hallmarks of catastrophic flooding, a layer that has been dated to approximately 2800 BCE. This timing corresponds remarkably well with flood stories from Mesopotamian traditions, including the famous account in the Epic of Gilgamesh and similar narratives from Sumerian texts. What makes this discovery particularly significant is that it provides physical evidence for a major flooding event in precisely the region where some of the world's oldest flood myths originated. The sediment layer shows clear signs of having been deposited by a massive, rapid flood rather than gradual accumulation, with older material mixed with newer in a way that suggests violent water action. Analysis of the sediment reveals that this wasn't merely a local river overflow, but an enormous regional catastrophe that would have inundated vast areas of the ancient Near East. While this flooding event wasn't global in scale, it would have appeared world-ending to the civilizations experiencing it, potentially forming the basis for the flood narratives that later evolved into the worldwide deluge described in various ancient texts. But what if the flood stories from Mesopotamia, the Bible, and other ancient traditions are cultural memories not of this 2800 BCE event, but of an even earlier and more catastrophic flooding? Perhaps the end of the last ice age, when melting glaciers caused sea levels to rise dramatically worldwide, inundating coastal regions, where early advanced civilizations may have been concentrated. In this light, the Tel Khor flood evidence might represent just one of many major flooding events that have shaped human history and mythology, each reinforcing and adding to the cultural memory of catastrophic deluges. What's particularly interesting is how these physical findings align with the chronology proposed by some ancient texts. The Sumerian king list, for example, describes an antediluvian period when kingship descended from heaven and rulers reigned for incredibly long periods, followed by a great flood, after which more historically recognizable dynasties ruled for more conventional lengths of time. Could this text be preserving a memory of advanced pre-flood civilizations that were largely wiped out by rising waters at the end of the last ice age, with only fragments of their knowledge and achievements surviving to influence later cultures? The physical evidence from Tel Karkar reminds us that ancient flood narratives weren't merely myths or moral tales, but may have been based on actual catastrophic events that shaped the course of human civilization. Events that may have erased much of the evidence of earlier, more advanced societies, leaving only their most massive and durable structures as testimony to their existence. Now let's travel to the coast of India, where the submerged city of Dwarka presents us with another compelling piece of evidence for advanced pre-flood civilizations. Located off the western coast of the Indian state of Gujarat, underwater investigations have revealed a vast ancient city stretching for kilometers beneath the waves of the Arabian Sea. Marine archaeologists have discovered massive stone walls, pillars, grid patterns of streets, and what appeared to be the remains of a substantial port facility, all now lying between 5 and 40 meters below sea level. What makes Dwarka particularly fascinating is its connection to Hindu mythology, which describes it as the legendary city of Lord Krishna, a magnificent metropolis that was submerged beneath the ocean after Krishna's death. For centuries, this was considered merely a religious myth, but the underwater discoveries suggest the legend may have been based on an actual historical city that was indeed lost to rising seas. Archaeological findings from the submerged site include anchors, pottery, and other artifacts that have been carbon dated to approximately 7,500 BCE, nearly 10,000 years ago. This dating places the city's existence during a time when sea levels were much lower due to the last ice age, with the submergence likely occurring as waters rose dramatically with the melting of the glaciers. The sophistication of the underwater structures suggests a level of urban planning, engineering, and architectural knowledge that shouldn't have existed in India 9,500 years ago, according to conventional archaeological timelines. The site features what appear to be massive stone blocks cut with precision and arranged in complex structures that would have required advanced building techniques and social organization to create. Some researchers have suggested that Dwarka may represent evidence of the legendary civilization described in ancient Hindu texts as existing during the Satya Yuga or Golden Age, a time when humans possessed knowledge and capabilities far beyond those of later eras. These texts describe advanced technologies, sophisticated sciences, and engineering capabilities that conventional archaeology doesn't recognize as having existed in such ancient times. Could the submerged ruins of Dwarka be physical evidence of such an advanced pre-flood civilization? A coastal metropolis that thrived during the last ice age, when sea levels were lower, only to be submerged when the melting glaciers caused the oceans to rise dramatically. The underwater city of Dwarka challenges us to reconsider our understanding of ancient Indian civilization and the possibility that advanced urban societies may have existed along the coastlines of the subcontinent thousands of years earlier than conventionally believed. It also reminds us that many of the world's coastlines were up to 100 kilometers further out during the last ice age, with vast areas of now submerged land that may have been home to advanced civilizations whose remains now lie hidden beneath the waves. Now let's journey to the ancient site of Gunung Padang in Indonesia, where recent archaeological investigations have revealed what may be the oldest pyramid-like structure in the world. Located on the island of Java, Gunung Padang appears from the surface to be a natural hill with some stone terraces and megalithic remains on its top, dated to around 500 CE by conventional archaeology. But sophisticated geophysical surveys, including ground-penetrating radar, seismic tomography, and electrical resistivity, have revealed something far more spectacular hidden beneath the surface. The surveys indicate that the entire hill is actually an artificial structure, a massive pyramid built in layers over thousands of years, with the oldest and deepest layers potentially dating back to 25,000 BCE. If these controversial dating results are confirmed, they would make Gunung Padang by far the oldest monumental structure on Earth, predating the Great Pyramid of Giza by more than 20,000 years. The structure appears to have been built in several distinct phases, with the earliest layer consisting of columnar basalt stones arranged in a matrix of finely crushed stone, creating a massive artificial platform at least 100 meters by 80 meters in size. Above this earliest layer are multiple additional layers of different construction styles, suggesting the structure was repeatedly modified and expanded over thousands of years by successive cultures. Carbon dating of organic material found within the deepest layers has yielded dates ranging from 13,000 to 25,000 years ago, a time when humans in this region are conventionally believed to have been primitive hunter-gatherers, not builders of massive monuments. Chambers and structured pathways have been detected within the artificial mound, suggesting it's not merely a platform but a complex structure with internal spaces and possibly water management systems. The enormous scale of the project, with an estimated 1 million cubic meters of material carefully arranged to create a stepped pyramid-like structure, would have required a level of social organization, engineering knowledge, and architectural planning that shouldn't have existed at such an early date. What makes Gunpadang particularly significant to our exploration of pre-flood megastructures is its potential age. If the earliest layers truly date to 25,000 BCE, this would place its initial construction during the last ice age, long before the Great Melt and resulting sea level rise that may have wiped out many coastal civilizations around 10,000 BCE. Could Gunpadang be evidence of an advanced Ice Age civilization in Southeast Asia? A civilization that possessed the knowledge, resources, and social organization to undertake massive construction projects tens of thousands of years before conventional archaeology acknowledges such capabilities existed? The site's location on a mountaintop, safe from rising waters, may explain why it has survived, while other evidence of this ancient civilization has been lost, either submerged beneath the Java Sea when water levels rose, or buried under the thick volcanic ash that frequently blankets this geologically active region. The mystery of Gunung Padang challenges us to completely reconsider the timeline of human civilization and technological development, suggesting that advanced societies may have existed and then been lost many thousands of years earlier than we've previously recognized. Let's now travel to the heart of the Amazon rainforest, where recent discoveries are challenging our understanding of pre-Columbian civilization in South America. Using a technology called LiDAR, which can see through the dense jungle canopy to reveal the ground beneath, archaeologists have discovered the remains of massive, sophisticated urban centers hidden under centuries of jungle growth. These discoveries in the upper Amazon basin, particularly in Bolivia and Brazil, reveal vast networks of raised fields, ceremonial centers, massive earthworks, and carefully engineered causeways and canals stretching across what was once thought to be virgin forest. What makes these discoveries particularly mind-boggling is their scale. Some of the earthworks are arranged in perfect geometric patterns covering thousands of acres, with precise circles, squares, and interlocking geometric designs that would have required advanced planning and surveying techniques to execute. The largest of these sites contains over 200 massive geoglyphs, geometric earthworks, including perfect circles up to 300 meters in diameter, connected by ruler straight roads spanning many kilometers. Archaeologists estimate that these Amazonian urban centers may have supported populations in the millions, fundamentally changing our understanding of pre-Columbian population density and social complexity in the region. Carbon dating of material from these sites suggests they were primarily constructed between 1000 BCE and 1500 CE, but some evidence points to much earlier human engineering of the Amazon landscape. But here's where the mystery deepens even further. Below these relatively recent constructions, archaeologists have found evidence of much earlier human activity in the region, including sophisticated pottery and terra preta, artificially enriched dark earth soil, dating back to around 8000 BCE. This places human civilization in the Amazon just after the end of the last ice age, during the period when global sea levels were rising dramatically due to melting glaciers. Could some of these earlier Amazonian cultures represent survivors of coastal civilizations who moved inland as their original territories were submerged by rising waters? Interestingly, indigenous Amazonian myths speak of a time when their ancestors came from a distant land that was destroyed by water, bringing with them advanced knowledge of astronomy, agriculture, and engineering. These newly discovered Amazonian sites challenge us to reconsider our understanding of what was possible in pre-Columbian South America and raise questions about how much evidence of even earlier civilizations might lie undiscovered beneath the nearly impenetrable jungle canopy. They also remind us that impressive achievements in urban planning and monumental architecture don't necessarily require stone construction. Earthworks can be equally massive and sophisticated, though generally more vulnerable to erosion and obscuration by vegetation over time. Could similar earthen megastructures once have existed in other parts of the world, only to be erased by millennia of erosion, agriculture, and later urban development? The hidden cities of the Amazon suggest that our understanding of ancient civilizations worldwide may be severely limited by what has survived and what we've been able to discover thus far. Now let's journey to the Golan Heights, where the mysterious megalithic site of Rujum El Hiri, also known as Gilgal Rephaim or Wheel of Giants, presents us with another pre-flood enigma. Located in the Golan Heights, near the Sea of Galilee, Rujum El Hiri consists of 5 concentric stone circles, the outermost measuring approximately 160 meters in diameter, with a large burial chamber at its center. The circles are formed from an estimated 42,000 tons of basalt stones, some weighing several tons each, carefully arranged to create walls up to 2.5 meters high and 3.5 meters thick. What makes Rojim el-Hiri particularly perplexing is its sophisticated astronomical alignments. The structure is designed so that on the summer solstice, the first rays of the rising sun appear directly through the entrance of the central burial chamber, a feat requiring precise astronomical knowledge and careful planning. Additionally, various alignments within the circles correspond to the equinoxes and other significant astronomical events, suggesting the site functioned as a type of ancient calendar or observatory. Conventional archaeology dates Rojim el-Hiri to the early Bronze Age, around 3000–2700 BCE, but some researchers have suggested it may be much older based on weathering patterns of the stones and its astronomical alignments. The level of astronomical knowledge required to create such precise alignments suggests a sophisticated understanding of celestial mechanics that seems out of place in the conventional timeline of scientific development in the region. Even more puzzling is the question of why an early Bronze Age culture would invest such enormous effort in creating a structure of this scale and complexity. The labor required to quarry, transport, and arrange 42,000 tons of basalt would have been immense, suggesting a level of social organization and resource mobilization beyond what conventional archaeology attributes to cultures of that period in the region. Some researchers have noted similarities between Rojim el-Hiri and megalithic sites in Europe, such as Stonehenge, suggesting a possible connection between these geographically distant cultures. Could both be remnants of a once widespread megalithic building tradition that existed before recorded history? Interestingly, the name Gilgal-Rephaim comes from biblical references to the Rephaim, described as a race of giants who inhabited the region in ancient times. Local legends attribute the construction of Rojim el-Hiri to these giants, claiming no normal humans could have moved such massive stones. Could these legends preserve cultural memories of an earlier pre-flood civilization that possessed more advanced technology and engineering knowledge than the cultures that followed? A civilization that created massive astronomical structures across the ancient world, only to be largely forgotten, except in mythology and the megalithic remains they left behind. The mystery of Rojim el-Hiri challenges us to reconsider our understanding of prehistoric cultures in the Near East and their capabilities for astronomical observation, mathematical calculation, and large-scale construction. Let's now explore the enigmatic megalithic ruins of Marcahuasi, perched high in the Peruvian Andes at an elevation of 4,000 meters above sea level. Spread across a plateau, approximately 4 square kilometers in size, Marcahuasi features hundreds of massive stone formations that appear to represent human and animal figures when viewed from specific angles and in particular lighting conditions. These include what appear to be human faces, animals including lions, frogs, and camels, and even what some interpret as figures from cultures around the world, including African, European, and Asian profiles. What makes Marcahuasi truly perplexing is the question of whether these formations are natural or artificial, and if artificial, who created them and how. Some geologists claim the formations are simply the result of natural erosion acting on the native granite, creating what only appear to be artificial sculptures through a phenomenon called pareidolia, the tendency of the human mind to perceive familiar patterns, such as faces, in random stimuli. But others point to specific features that seem difficult to explain through natural processes alone. The remarkable detail in some of the figures, including distinct facial features and anatomical proportions, the fact that many figures are only recognizable from specific viewing angles, suggesting intentional design for particular vantage points, the presence of what appear to be tool marks and cut surfaces on some formations. The statistical improbability of so many figurative formations occurring naturally in such a concentrated area. If these formations are indeed artificial, or even natural formations that were modified by human hands, they would require a level of artistic and engineering skill far beyond what conventional archaeology attributes to ancient Andean cultures. Moving and carving granite boulders, weighing many tons at an elevation of 4,000 meters, would be a remarkable achievement, even with modern technology. Some researchers have suggested that Marcahuasi may date back to a pre-flood period, perhaps created by the same civilization responsible for other megalithic sites in Peru, like Sacsayhuaman and Machu Picchu. Interestingly, many of the animal figures at Marcahuasi appear to depict species that haven't existed in the region for thousands of years, and some, like lions and camels, were never native to South America at all. Could the creators of these sculptures have had knowledge of animals from other continents, suggesting global travel and communication long before conventional history acknowledges such capabilities? Or might they represent species that existed in the region during an earlier epoch, preserved in stone by an ancient culture that witnessed them before they went extinct? The plateau's high elevation would have kept it safe from any flooding events that might have affected lower-lying regions, potentially preserving evidence of a pre-flood civilization that was lost elsewhere. The mystery of Markawasi reminds us that not all megastructures take the form of buildings or monuments. Sculptural works can be equally massive and technologically challenging, potentially preserving the artistic and cultural expressions of ancient civilizations in stone. Now let's journey to Australia, where the enigmatic Gosford glyphs present us with one of the most controversial archaeological mysteries in the Southern Hemisphere. Located in the Brisbane Water National Park, north of Sydney, the Gosford glyphs are a series of approximately 300 carvings on two large sandstone walls that appear to resemble ancient Egyptian hieroglyphs. What makes these carvings truly perplexing is their location, thousands of miles from Egypt, in a land that, according to conventional history, had no contact with Egyptian civilization. The glyphs appear to tell a coherent story, which some translations suggest relates the tale of Egyptian explorers who were shipwrecked on the Australian coast around 4,500 years ago, including references to their leader, a royal named Nefertiti, who died and was buried in the area. Conventional archaeology dismisses the glyphs as a modern hoax, pointing to inaccuracies in some of the hieroglyphic forms and the historical impossibility of Egyptians reaching Australia in the Bronze Age. But other researchers, including some Egyptologists, have argued that, while some of the glyphs show irregularities, others demonstrate knowledge of rare hieroglyphic forms that would be difficult for modern hoaxers to know about before the Internet age. Recent dating attempts using microerosion analysis have yielded conflicting results, with some suggesting the carvings could indeed be thousands of years old, while others indicate more recent origin. What's particularly interesting about the Gosford glyphs is their connection to Aboriginal legends from the area, which speak of culture heroes who came from across the sea in ancient times, bringing new knowledge and technology. These legends describe light-skinned visitors who taught certain tribes new skills before departing or dying in the land, narratives that show curious parallels to the story allegedly told in the glyphs themselves. If the Gosford glyphs are indeed authentic ancient carvings, they would suggest maritime capabilities far beyond what conventional history attributes to Bronze Age civilizations. The journey from Egypt to Australia would require crossing thousands of miles of open ocean, navigational knowledge that conventional history claims wasn't developed until thousands of years later. But what if the conventional timeline of human maritime capabilities is wrong? What if ancient civilizations, perhaps before the end of the last ice age and the flooding events that followed, possessed seafaring technology far more advanced than we currently recognize? Recent discoveries of sophisticated ancient shipwrecks and evidence of maritime trade routes spanning much greater distances than previously thought possible have begun to challenge our understanding of ancient seafaring capabilities. Could the Gosford glyphs be evidence of such advanced maritime civilization, perhaps not specifically Egyptian, but a global seafaring culture that used symbolic writing systems similar to those that later evolved into the hieroglyphs we associate with Egypt? The mystery of the Gosford glyphs challenges us to keep an open mind about the possibility of transoceanic contact between ancient civilizations and the potential for maritime capabilities far more advanced than conventional archaeology currently acknowledges. Now let's explore the mysterious underwater structures discovered in Lake Fuxian, China, one of the deepest freshwater lakes in Asia. In 2001, underwater archaeology teams discovered what appear to be the remains of a massive city beneath the waters of Lake Fuxian in China's Yunnan province, covering an area of approximately 2.5 square kilometers. The underwater structures include what appear to be massive stone roads, terrace buildings, walls, and even a pyramid-shaped structure, all now sitting between 15 and 27 meters below the lake's surface. What makes these underwater ruins particularly perplexing is that they don't match any known historical Chinese city, despite China's meticulous historical records that typically document the construction and destruction of significant urban centers. No conventional historical record mentions a city being submerged beneath Lake Fuxian, suggesting these structures may date from a period before written Chinese history began. Analysis of stone samples and construction styles has led some researchers to suggest the structures could be over 10,000 years old, dating from the end of the last ice age, when global sea levels and lake levels were rising dramatically due to melting glaciers. The underwater city appears to have been massive, with wide streets up to 10 meters across running for hundreds of meters, and buildings arranged in a complex urban plan suggesting sophisticated city design. Some of the carved stones recovered from the site feature symbols that don't match any known ancient Chinese writing system, raising questions about who might have built this mysterious city. Local legends speak of an ancient people called the Yuan, who supposedly had advanced technology and were destroyed in a great catastrophe. Could these be cultural memories of the civilization that built the structures now hidden beneath Lake Fuxian? Intriguingly, the region around Lake Fuxian has long been associated with UFO sightings and other unusual phenomena, leading some researchers to speculate about potential connections between these underwater structures and the persistent local legends of advanced ancient technology. While such speculations remain controversial, the physical evidence of sophisticated underwater structures that don't match known historical Chinese cities cannot be easily dismissed. If these structures truly date back 10,000 years or more, they would provide compelling evidence for an advanced pre-flood civilization in China, one capable of urban planning, massive stone construction, and sophisticated engineering long before such capabilities are conventionally believed to have existed in the region. The mystery of Lake Fuxian challenges us to reconsider our understanding of prehistoric Chinese civilization and the possibility that advanced urban societies may have existed in the region thousands of years earlier than conventionally recognized. Now let's travel to the Mediterranean, where the enigmatic megalithic temples of Hagar Kim and Menajdra on the island of Malta continue to defy conventional archaeological explanation. Dating to approximately 3,600–3,200 BCE, these massive limestone temples predate the Egyptian pyramids by nearly 1,000 years and represent some of the oldest freestanding stone structures in the world. What makes these Maltese temples truly mind-boggling is the size of the megaliths used in their construction, some weighing more than 20 tons, and the precision with which they are cut and fitted together. The largest megalith at Hagar Kim measures 7 meters by 3 meters and weighs approximately 57 tons, an enormous mass to quarry, transport, and position, with the limited technology supposedly available to the temple builders. Even more impressive is the sophisticated architectural knowledge evident in these structures, including corbelled roofing techniques, precisely aligned astronomical orientations, and complex acoustic properties that suggest an advanced understanding of sound. The temples feature remarkable astronomical alignments, with specific windows and doorways positioned to capture the sun's rays on the solstices and equinoxes, creating dramatic lighting effects that illuminate particular features of the interior. Such precise astronomical knowledge requires generations of careful observation and measurement, suggesting a continuous scientific tradition that seems out of place in what conventional archaeology considers a primitive, prehistoric culture. Perhaps most perplexing is the sudden appearance of these sophisticated temples without clear evolutionary precursors. They emerge in their full architectural complexity, with no evident developmental phase or experimentation period. This pattern of sudden appearance of advanced megalithic technology without clear developmental stages is seen at ancient sites around the world, suggesting the possibility of knowledge transfer from an earlier, perhaps pre-flood, civilization. Intriguingly, the builders of Malta's megalithic temples vanished as mysteriously as they appeared, with the island apparently abandoned around 2500 BCE, a date that coincides with evidence of major climate change and flooding events in the Mediterranean region. Could this disappearance be connected to the same catastrophic events that show up in flood myths around the world? Recent underwater discoveries around Malta have revealed what appear to be ancient structures, now submerged offshore, suggesting that the island was once larger and sea levels have risen significantly since the time of the temple builders. Some researchers have proposed that Malta may once have been part of a larger landmass that included parts of what is now underwater continental shelf, potentially hosting a more extensive civilization before rising sea levels reduced it to its current size. The mystery of Malta's megalithic temples challenges us to reconsider our understanding of prehistoric Mediterranean cultures and the possibility that the region may have been home to far more advanced civilizations than conventional archaeology currently acknowledges. Now let's journey to central Turkey, where the mysterious site of Çatalhöyük has been revolutionizing our understanding of early human civilization. First excavated in the 1960s and subjected to extensive investigation since, Çatalhöyük represents one of the world's oldest known large human settlements, dating from approximately 7,500 BCE to 5,700 BCE. What makes Çatalhöyük truly remarkable is its size and complexity at such an early date, housing up to 10,000 people in a sophisticated urban environment millennia before the first cities are conventionally believed to have developed in Mesopotamia. The settlement features tightly packed mud brick houses with no streets between them. Residents moved around the city by walking across the rooftops and entering their homes through ceiling hatches. This unusual architectural arrangement creates a honeycomb-like urban structure that seems to prioritize defense and community cohesion in ways that suggest a sophisticated understanding of social engineering. The interior walls of many buildings are decorated with elaborate murals depicting hunting scenes, geometric patterns, and what appear to be maps of the settlement itself, suggesting a developed artistic tradition and perhaps the beginnings of cartography. What's particularly puzzling about Saddle-Hoyuk is how such a large, sophisticated urban center could have developed so early in human history, without clear precursors or contemporary parallels. Conventional archaeological timelines suggest that humans were just beginning to transition from hunter-gatherer lifestyles to basic farming during this period. Yet Saddle-Hoyuk shows evidence of a complex specialized society with advanced architectural knowledge, artistic traditions, and social organization. The site shows evidence of sophisticated craftsmanship, including complex textiles, pottery, and obsidian mirrors so finely polished they approach the reflective quality of modern glass. Technological achievements that seem out of place so early in human history. Even more intriguing are the religious or symbolic artifacts found at the site, including the famous seated goddess figurine that suggests a developed spiritual tradition potentially connected to similar female figurines found across Europe and the Near East. Could Saddle-Hoyuk represent a surviving fragment of knowledge and culture from an earlier pre-flood civilization? A settlement established by survivors of a more advanced society that was largely destroyed by rising waters at the end of the last ice age. The timing is particularly significant. Saddle-Hoyuk was founded around 7,500 BCE, just as the massive sea level rises associated with the end of the last ice age were stabilizing. If coastal civilizations had been destroyed by these rising waters, survivors moving inland might have established settlements like Saddle-Hoyuk, bringing with them fragments of more advanced knowledge and cultural traditions. This could explain the site's seemingly advanced features and apparent lack of clear developmental predecessors. It wasn't developing from scratch, but representing a restart or continuation of earlier traditions. The mystery of Saddle-Hoyuk challenges us to reconsider our understanding of early human civilization and the possibility that sophisticated urban societies may have existed thousands of years earlier than conventionally believed. Now let's venture to the remote plains of Kazakhstan, where the mysterious steppe geoglyphs present us with another pre-flood enigma. Discovered in 2007 through Google Earth, these massive earthworks include more than 200 enormous geometric patterns, including perfect squares, crosses, circles, and rings, some measuring more than 400 meters across. What makes these geoglyphs truly perplexing is their scale, precision, and age. The largest, known as the Ustige square, is a perfect square measuring 287 meters on each side, with corners precisely aligned to the cardinal directions, a feat requiring sophisticated surveying knowledge to achieve at such scale. Archaeological excavations of some of these structures have yielded dating evidence suggesting they were created between 8,000 and 10,000 years ago, thousands of years before the invention of writing or the development of advanced mathematics, according to conventional timelines. The precision of these massive geometric patterns is remarkable. Perfect circles, squares with exact 90-degree angles, and straight lines running for hundreds of meters without deviation. Creating such perfect geometric forms at this enormous scale would require a sophisticated understanding of mathematics, surveying techniques, and social organization to coordinate the massive workforce needed to move thousands of tons of earth with precision. Yet conventional archaeology tells us that the people of this region, 8,000–10,000 years ago, were simple hunters and early pastoralists, lacking the mathematical knowledge, surveying tools, or social complexity necessary for such ambitious projects. Even more puzzling is the purpose of these massive earthworks, which would have required enormous resources and labor to create yet seem to serve no obvious practical function. Some researchers have suggested they may have had astronomical significance, with certain alignments marking solstices, equinoxes, or other celestial events, implying a sophisticated understanding of astronomy at a remarkably early date. Others propose they may have served as territorial markers, ceremonial centers, or perhaps as some form of communication system visible from high elevations. The steppe geoglyphs bear intriguing similarities to other ancient earthworks around the world, including the Nazca lines of Peru, the Newark earthworks of Ohio, and various prehistoric European henges and circles. Could these similarities point to a once global tradition of creating massive geometric patterns on the landscape, perhaps originating with a pre-flood civilization whose knowledge and cultural practices spread worldwide before being largely forgotten after catastrophic flooding events? The timing is particularly significant. These geoglyphs date to the period immediately following the end of the last ice age, when massive climate changes and rising sea levels were transforming landscapes worldwide. Could they represent the work of survivors of these catastrophic changes, perhaps creating massive markers visible from high elevations to aid navigation in a transformed landscape? Or might they be an attempt to communicate with the heavens, created by people who had witnessed devastating floods and were seeking to prevent future catastrophes through monumental offerings or astronomical observations? The mystery of the steppe geoglyphs challenges us to reconsider our understanding of prehistoric Central Asian cultures and the level of mathematical and organizational sophistication they may have possessed thousands of years earlier than conventionally recognized. Now let's journey to ancient Lebanon, where the enigmatic ruins of Heliopolis and Baalbek continue to defy conventional archaeological explanation. While we touched on the famous trilithon of Baalbek earlier, the full extent of this site's mysteries deserves deeper exploration. Beyond the three enormous blocks of the trilithon, weighing approximately 800 tons each, lies an even more perplexing megalith, a fourth, fully quarried stone still attached to the bedrock, measuring 21.5 meters in length and weighing an estimated 1,650 tons. Known as the Stone of the South, or Hajar al-Habla, this is the largest worked stone in the ancient world, and engineers today still cannot agree on how it could have been moved with ancient technology. For comparison, the heaviest objects moved in modern times, using specialized equipment, rarely exceed 1,000 tons, and those require enormous industrial cranes and special transporters, with hundreds of computer-synchronized wheels. What makes Baalbek truly mind-boggling is not just the size of these megaliths, but the precision with which they are cut and the height at which they are placed in the temple foundation. The trilithon sits approximately 7 meters above ground level on multiple courses of smaller, though still massive blocks, each weighing between 100 and 400 tons. How the builders managed to lift these enormous stones to such heights with the technology supposedly available in the Roman period defies explanation. Even more perplexing is the question of why such massive stones were used at all, when much smaller blocks would have been far easier to work with and would have served the same structural purpose. The conventional attribution of the Baalbek temple complex to the Romans during the 1st century CE is problematic for several reasons. Roman writings from the period, which meticulously documented their engineering achievements, make no mention of the extraordinary feat of moving these massive foundation stones. The megalithic foundation appears stylistically and technologically distinct from the Roman temple built on top of it. No other Roman site anywhere in their vast empire uses stones of comparable size. The quarrying techniques evident in the extraction of the Stone of the South appear more advanced than those known to have been used by the Romans. Many researchers have suggested that the megalithic foundation at Baalbek predates the Roman era by thousands of years, with the Romans simply building their temple on top of a much older sacred site, a common practice throughout ancient history. Local legends support this view, attributing the original construction to the time when giants dwelled in the earth or to the god Belial himself in the distant past. Could the megalithic foundation at Baalbek be the work of a pre-flood civilization that possessed technology and engineering knowledge far beyond what conventional history attributes to ancient cultures? A civilization capable of quarrying, transporting, and precisely positioning stone blocks weighing hundreds of tons with a level of precision that would challenge even our modern capabilities. The mystery of Baalbek's megalithic foundation forces us to question our assumptions about what was technologically possible in the ancient world and who might have possessed such capabilities. Now let's travel to Siberia, where the mysterious megalithic site of Gornaya Shoria presents us with some of the largest and most puzzling stone blocks ever discovered. Located in the remote mountains of southern Siberia, near the Kazakhstan border, this site features colossal rectangular stone blocks that appear to be artificially shaped and precisely fitted together to form massive walls and structures. What makes Gornaya Shoria truly mind-boggling is the size of these blocks, some measuring up to 20 meters in length and weighing an estimated 3,000 to 4,000 tons. For comparison, the largest stones used in the Great Pyramid of Giza weigh approximately 80 tons and the largest at Baalbek around 1,650 tons, making the Gornaya Shoria blocks potentially more than twice as massive as any other known megalithic stones. The blocks feature what appear to be precise right angles, flat faces, and tight-fitting joints between adjacent stones, characteristics that suggest artificial shaping rather than natural formation. Some of the joints are so precise that a knife blade cannot be inserted between the massive blocks despite their enormous size and weight. Conventional geology suggests these might be examples of natural joining in granite, a process where cooling magma naturally forms rectangular patterns due to stress forces. But many researchers who have studied the site firsthand argue that several features are difficult to explain through purely natural processes. The remarkable consistency of the block sizes and shapes across the site, the presence of apparent tool marks and drilling marks on some surfaces, the geometric precision of many of the right angles and flat faces, the way certain blocks appear to have been placed upon others in deliberate arrangements, the remote location of Gornaya Shoria, far from any known ancient civilization, makes this site particularly perplexing. If these are indeed artificially shaped and arranged megaliths, who created them and why in such an isolated location? And how did they manage to quarry, transport, and position stone blocks weighing thousands of tons in mountainous terrain without modern technology? The conventional archaeological position is that no known ancient culture in this region possessed the technological capability or social organization necessary for such monumental stone construction. Yet these massive blocks exist, challenging our understanding of what was possible in the ancient world. Some researchers have suggested that Gornaya Shoria may be evidence of a pre-flood civilization that once existed across Siberia and Central Asia, a civilization with engineering capabilities far beyond what conventional archaeology attributes to ancient cultures. A civilization perhaps wiped out by the catastrophic climate changes and flooding events that accompanied the end of the last ice age, leaving only its most massive and durable structures as evidence of its existence. The mystery of Gornaya Shoria challenges us to keep an open mind about the possibility of advanced prehistoric civilizations existing in regions where conventional archaeology has yet to acknowledge them. Let's now journey to the underwater city of Pavlopetri, off the coast of southern Greece, the oldest known submerged urban settlement in the Mediterranean. Discovered in 1967 and mapped in detail using sonar and underwater archaeology techniques, Pavlopetri lies between 3 and 4 meters beneath the surface of the Mediterranean Sea near the Peloponnese Peninsula. What makes Pavlopetri truly remarkable is its age and completeness, dating back at least 5,000 years to the early Bronze Age, with some evidence suggesting possible earlier origins in the late Neolithic period. The underwater city covers approximately 300 by 150 meters and features a complex urban plan with streets, buildings, courtyards, tombs, and even what appears to be a large central plaza. The sophistication of the urban planning, evident at Pavlopetri, suggests a level of social organization and architectural knowledge that seems surprisingly advanced for its early date. The city includes stone buildings with multiple rooms arranged around courtyards, streets laid out in grid patterns, and evidence of specialized areas for different activities, all hallmarks of advanced urban design. Archaeological evidence suggests Pavlopetri was a thriving maritime trading center, with artifacts indicating connections to Egypt, Cyprus, and Crete, challenging conventional views about the extent of Mediterranean trade networks 5,000 years ago. What's particularly significant about Pavlopetri for our exploration of pre-flood megastructures is that it provides a clear example of how rising sea levels have submerged once thriving coastal settlements. Geological studies indicate that Pavlopetri was gradually submerged due to a combination of rising sea levels and tectonic activity, with the process beginning around 1000 BCE and continuing until the city was completely underwater. This relatively recent and well-documented case of a submerged city reminds us that many ancient coastal settlements worldwide may have suffered similar fates, particularly during the much more dramatic sea level rises that occurred at the end of the last ice age. Between approximately 20,000 and 8,000 BCE, global sea levels rose by about 120 meters as the massive ice age glaciers melted, potentially submerging countless coastal settlements from this earlier period. If advanced civilizations existed during this earlier period, their primary urban centers may now lie beneath 100+ meters of water on what were once coastal plains and are now continental shelves. Pavlopetri offers us a glimpse of what these much older and potentially more extensive submerged sites might look like, complete cities preserved beneath the waves, waiting to be discovered. The relative recency of Pavlopetri's submergence has allowed it to remain in a remarkable state of preservation, with buildings, streets, and artifacts largely intact. Older submerged sites from the end of the Ice Age would have been underwater much longer and subject to more marine erosion, potentially making them more difficult to identify and study. The underwater city of Pavlopetri challenges us to consider how much of human history may now lie beneath the seas, and how our understanding of ancient civilizations might change as underwater archaeology continues to advance and reveal more submerged settlements from our distant past. Now let's travel to Armenia, where the enigmatic prehistoric site of Zorit's Kar, also known as Karahunj, presents us with what may be one of the world's oldest astronomical observatories. Located near the city of Sishin in southern Armenia, Zorit's Kar consists of over 200 large standing stones, many with smooth, precisely drilled holes running through them at different angles. What makes Zorit's Kar truly perplexing is its age and apparent purpose. Radiocarbon dating of material from the site suggests it was created between 7,500 and 4,500 BCE, thousands of years before Stonehenge and other well-known megalithic observatories of Europe. Astronomical research at the site has revealed that many of the holes in the standing stones align precisely with specific stellar events as they would have appeared in the night sky thousands of years ago. Some stones appear to align with the rising and setting points of the sun at the solstices and equinoxes, while others align with particular stars and constellations that held significance to ancient cultures. The precision of these alignments suggests a sophisticated understanding of astronomy that shouldn't have existed in the Caucasus region during the early Neolithic period, according to conventional archaeological timelines. The technical capability required to drill perfect holes through solid basalt stone, some penetrating up to 20 centimeters through the hard rock, suggests tools and techniques that conventional archaeology doesn't recognize as having existed at such an early date. Some researchers have calculated that creating these precision-drilled holes in such hard stone would require diamond-tipped or comparable hardness drill bits, rotating at high speeds, technology not conventionally believed to have existed in prehistoric Armenia. The site also features what appears to be a sophisticated understanding of mathematics and geometry, with the stones arranged in specific patterns that suggest knowledge of principles like the golden ratio and certain astronomical calculations. Armenian researchers have identified what they believe are specific stones that would have allowed ancient astronomers to predict lunar eclipses, a feat requiring detailed observation over many years and sophisticated mathematical understanding. What's particularly significant about Zoret's is that it appears to predate other known astronomical observatories by thousands of years, suggesting that advanced astronomical knowledge existed much earlier than conventionally believed. Could Zoret's be evidence of a pre-flood civilization that possessed sophisticated astronomical and mathematical knowledge? A civilization that understood the importance of tracking celestial cycles and encoding that knowledge in massive stone monuments designed to survive catastrophic events like floods? Interestingly, Armenian legends speak of giants who once inhabited the region and possessed great wisdom about the heavens, perhaps a mythologized memory of the astronomers who created Zoret's thousands of years ago. The mystery of Zoret's challenges us to reconsider our understanding of prehistoric astronomical knowledge and the possibility that advanced scientific observation and mathematical calculation existed thousands of years earlier than conventional archaeology currently acknowledges. Let's now explore the mysterious megalithic ruins of Chavan de Huantar in Peru, which challenge our understanding of ancient South American civilization. Located high in the Andes at an elevation of 3,180 meters, Chavan de Huantar features massive stone structures, intricate carvings, and a sophisticated system of underground galleries and water channels that demonstrate remarkable engineering knowledge. What makes Chavan de Huantar truly perplexing is its age and sophistication. Conventional archaeology dates the site to approximately 1500 BCE, making it one of the oldest major stone complexes in the Americas, and a precursor to later Andean civilizations like the Inca. The site features massive granite blocks, some weighing more than 20 tons, cut with remarkable precision and fitted together so perfectly that mortar was unnecessary, a hallmark of the most sophisticated Andean stonework. Even more impressive is the complex system of underground galleries beneath the main structures, a network of perfectly straight tunnels, chambers, and air shafts that create remarkable acoustic effects and control water flow through the complex. The underground hydraulic system includes precisely engineered channels that control water from two different sources, the Masna and Wichexa rivers, creating specific sounds as water flows through the chambers, and allowing for the control of water pressure and flow throughout the complex. This sophisticated understanding of hydraulics, acoustics, and engineering seems out of place in a culture that supposedly lacked metal tools, the wheel, or written language. The precision stonework at Chavan de Huantar has led some researchers to suggest it may be much older than conventionally believed, possibly dating to a pre-flood period when advanced engineering knowledge was more widespread. Supporting this theory is the site's location high in the Andes, a position that would have kept it safe from the catastrophic flooding events that may have destroyed evidence of this civilization in lower-lying regions. Intriguingly, some of the carvings at Chavan de Huantar depict figures holding what appear to be sophisticated tools or devices that don't match any known implements from pre-Columbian South America. Other carvings show human-animal hybrid figures, with features reminiscent of ancient Egyptian and Mesopotamian art, leading some researchers to propose possible connections between these geographically distant cultures. The site's central sculpture, known as the Lanzon, depicts a deity with snakes for hair and fangs, holding what some interpret as a stylized thunderbolt, imagery that bears striking similarities to depictions of gods from other ancient cultures around the world. Could Chavan de Huantar be a surviving fragment of a once widespread pre-flood civilization that possessed advanced engineering knowledge and shared certain cultural and religious symbols? A civilization whose most durable works survived in high mountain locations while evidence in coastal and lowland regions was destroyed by catastrophic flooding. The mystery of Chavan de Huantar challenges us to reconsider our understanding of prehistoric Andean civilization and the possibility that advanced engineering knowledge existed in South America thousands of years earlier than conventionally believed. Now let's travel to the ancient site of Mohenjo-Daro in Pakistan, where one of history's greatest mysteries awaits us. Located in the Indus Valley, Mohenjo-Daro was one of the largest cities of the ancient Indus Valley civilization, flourishing between approximately 2600 and 1900 BCE. What makes Mohenjo-Daro truly extraordinary is its sophisticated urban planning, advanced sanitation systems, and the mysterious circumstances of its abandonment. The city features a grid-like street pattern with precise right angles, standardized housing blocks, and the world's first known urban sanitation system, including advanced drainage, indoor toilets, and sophisticated water management techniques that wouldn't be matched in Europe until the Roman period thousands of years later. The precision of the city's layout suggests sophisticated surveying techniques and a centralized planning authority with the power to implement large-scale urban design across an area covering more than 250 hectares. But here's where the mystery deepens dramatically. Archaeological evidence suggests Mohenjo-Daro was suddenly abandoned around 1900 BCE, with no clear signs of invasion, disease outbreak, or gradual decline that typically mark the end of urban centers. Even more puzzling are discoveries made in the upper layers of the city's ruins. Multiple skeletons lying in the streets, some holding hands as if fleeing together, and showing no signs of violence or warfare. Analysis of these remains has revealed radiation levels significantly higher than would be expected naturally, leading some researchers to propose that Mohenjo-Daro may have been destroyed by some kind of catastrophic event that released intense heat and radiation. Supporting this theory are discoveries of areas where brick and pottery appear to have been fused and vitrified at temperatures exceeding 1,500 degrees Celsius, far higher than would be achieved in normal fires or conventional warfare of the period. Some of the city's structures show evidence of intense heat damage on their upper portions, while lower sections remain undamaged, suggesting the heat source came from above rather than from ground-level fires. British researcher David Davenport, who studied the site for 12 years, concluded that the evidence pointed to an atomic-like explosion that destroyed the city almost 4,000 years ago. While conventional archaeology rejects such interpretations as pseudoscientific, the physical evidence of extreme heat, unusual radiation, and sudden abandonment remains inadequately explained. Ancient Sanskrit texts, including the Mahabharata, describe weapons of mass destruction used in prehistoric wars that could reduce to ashes entire armies and create explosions brighter than 1,000 suns, descriptions that bear eerie similarities to modern nuclear weapons. Could these texts preserve cultural memories of advanced weapons technology possessed by a pre-flood civilization? Technology that was perhaps rediscovered or preserved by certain groups after the Great Deluge, only to be used destructively in subsequent conflicts. The mystery of Mohenjo-Daro's destruction challenges us to keep an open mind about the technological capabilities that may have existed in the ancient world, and the possibility that advanced civilizations may have possessed destructive powers similar to our own. Let's now explore the enigmatic ancient site of Adam's Calendar in South Africa, believed by some researchers to be the oldest megalithic circle in the world. Located on a remote hilltop in Mpumalanga province, Adam's Calendar, also known as Enki's Calendar, consists of standing stones arranged in a circular pattern approximately 30 meters in diameter, with specific stones aligned to track the movement of the sun throughout the year. What makes Adam's Calendar truly mind-boggling is its proposed age. Based on archaeoastronomical calculations of how the stones would have aligned with celestial events in the distant past, some researchers suggest the site may be 75,000 to 100,000 years old, vastly older than any other known megalithic structure on Earth. While conventional archaeology disputes such extreme dating, even conservative estimates place the site at around 25,000 years old, still making it far older than Stonehenge or the Egyptian pyramids. The site features carefully placed monoliths, some weighing several tons, arranged to track the movement of the sun on the horizon throughout the year, marking solstices, equinoxes, and other astronomically significant events. At the center of the calendar are two upright stones that cast specific shadows on marker stones, creating a precise calendar system that would have allowed ancient people to track time with remarkable accuracy. Surrounding the central calendar are what appear to be stone channels, terraces, and other structures that suggest the site was part of a larger complex, with purposes beyond simple timekeeping. What's particularly perplexing about Adam's Calendar is that it suggests knowledge of sophisticated astronomy tens of thousands of years before humans are conventionally believed to have developed such understanding. The precision of the astronomical alignments implies not just casual observation of the heavens, but systematic, mathematical tracking of celestial movements over extended periods, a level of scientific thinking that conventional archaeology doesn't recognize as having existed in prehistoric Africa. Even more puzzling are the numerous gold mining sites discovered in the same region, with evidence of mining activity dating back at least 100,000 years, according to some geological studies. These ancient mines show signs of sophisticated engineering, including carefully constructed support structures and ventilation systems that suggest organized, large-scale operations rather than primitive digging. Who were these ancient astronomers and miners? What level of civilization did they represent? And why would they invest such enormous effort in creating precise astronomical calendars and extensive mining operations tens of thousands of years before advanced civilization is supposed to have existed? Some researchers have connected Adam's calendar to local African legends about the Abzu ancient beings who came from the stars and established the first human civilizations. These legends speak of advanced knowledge brought to Earth from elsewhere and preserved through catastrophic events that periodically reset human civilization. Could Adam's calendar be evidence of such an ancient pre-flood civilization? A civilization with astronomical and mathematical knowledge, far beyond what conventional archaeology attributes to humans living 75,000 plus years ago. The mystery of Adam's calendar challenges us to reconsider our entire timeline of human civilization and technological development, suggesting that advanced knowledge may have existed on Earth far earlier than we've previously recognized. Now let's explore the enigmatic underwater structures discovered in Lake Michigan, which continue to puzzle archaeologists and geologists alike. In 2007, using sonar equipment to survey the bottom of Lake Michigan's Grand Traverse Bay, archaeologists discovered a series of unusual stone structures sitting 12 meters below the surface, including what appears to be a stone circle similar to Stonehenge. What makes these underwater structures particularly perplexing is that they include what seems to be a carved boulder with an image resembling a mastodon, an elephant-like creature that went extinct in North America approximately 10,000 years ago at the end of the last ice age. If authentic, this carving would be the oldest known rock art in the Great Lakes region by thousands of years and would suggest human interaction with mastodons before their extinction, challenging conventional timelines of human settlement in North America. The underwater stone circle consists of large boulders arranged in a geometric pattern approximately 30 meters in diameter, with some stones appearing to have been worked or positioned deliberately rather than scattered randomly by natural processes. Geological evidence indicates that the area where these structures are found would have been dry land approximately 10,000 years ago, when water levels in the Great Lakes were much lower due to the last ice age. This timing aligns perfectly with the period when rising temperatures were melting the massive Ice Age glaciers, causing water levels to rise dramatically and potentially submerging coastal settlements throughout the region. Native American legends from the Great Lakes region speak of ancient times when the waters rose and covered vast areas of land, forcing their ancestors to relocate to higher ground. Many of these legends include references to structures and sacred sites that were lost beneath the rising waters, cultural memories that might correlate with the underwater discoveries in Lake Michigan. What's particularly intriguing about these underwater structures is their potential connection to the mysterious ancient copper mining operations in the Upper Peninsula of Michigan that we explored earlier. Both the underwater structures and the ancient copper mines date to roughly the same period, approximately 10,000 years ago, just as the last ice age was ending. Could they be evidence of the same pre-flood civilization? A culture with the knowledge and technology to create stone monuments, realistic animal carvings, and engage in sophisticated mining operations at a time when humans in North America are conventionally believed to have been simple hunter-gatherers. The underwater discoveries in Lake Michigan challenge us to reconsider our understanding of prehistoric North America and the possibility that advanced civilizations may have existed in the region thousands of years earlier than conventionally believed. They also remind us that many of the most significant archaeological sites from the end of the last ice age may now lie hidden beneath lakes, rivers, and coastal waters, submerged by the same rising water levels that may have brought an end to the civilizations that created them. Let's now explore the mysterious ancient site of Göbekli Tepe in greater detail, as new discoveries continue to revolutionize our understanding of this remarkable pre-flood megastructure. Located in southeastern Turkey, Göbekli Tepe was first excavated in 1995, revealing a series of massive stone circles that conventional archaeology dates to approximately 9,500–8,000 BCE, making it at least 7,000 years older than Stonehenge and 6,000 years older than the earliest Egyptian pyramids. What makes Göbekli Tepe truly revolutionary is that it upends the conventional narrative about the development of human civilization. According to conventional archaeology, monumental architecture should only appear after the development of agriculture, permanent settlements, and social hierarchies. Yet Göbekli Tepe was built by people conventionally classified as hunter-gatherers, thousands of years before the supposed invention of agriculture. The site features multiple circular enclosures, each containing two central T-shaped pillars surrounded by additional pillars arranged around the perimeter, all connected by stone walls. These T-shaped pillars stand up to 5.5 meters tall and weigh as much as 10 tons each, carved from solid limestone and decorated with intricate reliefs of animals, symbols, and abstract designs. The precision and artistry of these carvings is remarkable, depicting foxes, lions, bulls, snakes, spiders, and numerous other animals with a level of detail and naturalism that wouldn't be matched for thousands of years afterward. But here's where recent discoveries have made Göbekli Tepe even more mind-boggling. Ground-penetrating radar surveys have revealed that what has been excavated so far, approximately 5% of the site, may be just the tip of the iceberg. These surveys indicate at least 20 more circular enclosures buried beneath the surface, suggesting the site is far larger and more complex than initially believed. Even more astonishing, recent excavations have uncovered evidence that Göbekli Tepe's builders possess sophisticated knowledge of geometry and astronomy. The layout of the stone circles appears to incorporate precise mathematical relationships, including specific angles between pillars that correspond to astronomical alignments, marking solstices, equinoxes, and the movements of certain stars. Analysis of the animal carvings suggests they may represent constellations, potentially forming a symbolic star map that would have required generations of systematic astronomical observation to create. Some researchers have even proposed that certain markings on the pillars may represent an early form of writing or symbolic communication, thousands of years before writing is conventionally believed to have been invented. Perhaps most perplexing is the fact that after being used for approximately 1,500 years, Göbekli Tepe was deliberately and carefully buried under thousands of tons of soil and debris around 8000 BCE. This wasn't abandonment or natural accumulation. It was an enormous, organized effort to completely cover the site, preserving it but hiding it from view. Why would an ancient people invest such tremendous effort to bury their greatest achievement? What were they trying to protect it from? Some researchers have connected this deliberate burial to evidence of dramatic climate change that occurred around the same time, the Younger Dryas event, a sudden return to ice age conditions followed by rapid warming and substantial flooding. Could the builders of Göbekli Tepe have foreseen catastrophic events on the horizon and buried their sacred site to preserve it for future generations? The mystery of Göbekli Tepe challenges us to completely reconsider the conventional narrative of human civilization, suggesting that sophisticated knowledge of architecture, astronomy, and symbolic expression existed thousands of years earlier than previously thought. It may represent not the beginning of advanced human civilization, but a surviving fragment of an earlier pre-flood world that was largely lost when rising waters transformed the face of our planet at the end of the last ice age. Now let's journey to Bolivia once more, where new discoveries at the ancient site of Tiwanaku continue to deepen its mysteries. Recent archaeological investigations using ground-penetrating radar and other advanced technologies have revealed previously unknown structures beneath and around the visible ruins, suggesting the site is far larger and more complex than previously recognized. What makes these new discoveries particularly mind-boggling is evidence that Tiwanaku may have once been a thriving port city on the shores of Lake Titicaca, despite now being miles from the lake's current shoreline. Underwater archaeological surveys have identified what appear to be ancient structures, roads, and agricultural terraces beneath the waters of Lake Titicaca, suggesting the lake was once much lower and subsequently rose to submerge portions of the ancient city. Other evidence indicates that at different periods the lake may have been much higher than it is today, potentially covering parts of Tiwanaku that are currently above water. These dramatic fluctuations in water level suggest catastrophic climate events and flooding that may have repeatedly transformed the region throughout its history. Even more puzzling are recent discoveries of advanced metallurgical knowledge at Tiwanaku, including evidence that its ancient builders understood principles of alloying and metalworking that weren't supposed to have been discovered until thousands of years later. Analysis of metal artifacts from the site has revealed sophisticated understanding of how to combine different metals to create alloys with specific properties, knowledge that conventional archaeology doesn't recognize as having existed in pre-Columbian South America. Equally perplexing is new evidence regarding the site's astronomy. Detailed analysis of the Kalasasaya temple has confirmed that its precise alignments would only have accurately marked solstices and equinoxes around 15,000 BCE, thousands of years earlier than the conventional dating of Tiwanaku to 300–1000 CE. For these alignments to be so precisely oriented to astronomical events of 15,000 BCE, either the builders must have constructed the site at that time, or they possessed sophisticated mathematical knowledge that allowed them to calculate past astronomical positions with remarkable accuracy. Either possibility suggests a level of scientific understanding far beyond what conventional archaeology attributes to ancient Andean civilizations. Recent investigations of the famous Gate of the Sun have revealed what some researchers interpret as a sophisticated calendar system encoding knowledge of astronomical cycles, including the precession of the equinoxes, a 920-year cycle that requires extremely long-term observation to recognize. Understanding such lengthy astronomical cycles suggests a civilization with scientific record-keeping spanning thousands of years, far longer than the conventional timeline attributes to any culture in the region. Perhaps most intriguing are new discoveries regarding Tiwanaku's building techniques. Microscopic analysis of the precisely cut stone blocks has revealed evidence that challenges conventional explanations of how they were created. Some researchers suggest that evidence points to sophisticated technologies that could cut and shape hard stone with remarkable precision, technologies that conventional archaeology doesn't recognize as having existed in the ancient Andes. Could Tiwanaku represent the remnants of a pre-flood civilization that possessed advanced knowledge of astronomy, mathematics, metallurgy, and stoneworking technology? A civilization that experienced multiple catastrophic flooding events as Lake Titicaca repeatedly rose and fell, perhaps connected to the same global climate changes that ended the last ice age. The continuing mysteries of Tiwanaku challenge us to reconsider our understanding of prehistoric South American civilization and the possibility that advanced scientific knowledge existed in the Andes thousands of years earlier than conventionally believed. Let's now explore the enigmatic megaliths of Yangshan Quarry in China, which present us with another engineering puzzle from the ancient world. Located near Nanjing in eastern China, Yangshan Quarry contains the largest known stone blocks ever cut in ancient China. Massive rectangular slabs of granite intended for the tomb of the Yongle Emperor of the Ming Dynasty in the early 15th century CE. What makes Yangshan Quarry truly mind-boggling is the stele base, an enormous unfinished stone slab measuring 16 meters long, 3 meters wide, and 2 meters thick, weighing an estimated 16,000 tons. This single megalith is the largest stone ever quarried in human history, far larger than any stone used in the Egyptian pyramids or at Baalbek in Lebanon. The technical challenges involved in quarrying such an enormous stone with Ming Dynasty technology are staggering. How did the ancient workers cut this perfect rectangular block from the solid granite mountainside using only iron chisels, hammers, and wooden wedges? Even more perplexing is the question of how they planned to transport this massive stone the 70 kilometers to Nanjing, given that even modern engineering would struggle with moving an object of this size and weight. Historical records indicate that the project was eventually abandoned, with the emperor accepting smaller, though still enormous, stones for his tomb instead. But the very fact that the Ming engineers attempted to quarry such a massive block suggests they believed they possessed the technical capability to move it, raising questions about what transportation methods they might have intended to use. Some researchers have suggested that the Yangshan quarry workers may have been drawing on much older technical knowledge, perhaps techniques passed down from earlier Chinese dynasties or even from a pre-flood civilization with advanced engineering capabilities. Interestingly, ancient Chinese texts speak of earlier ages when humans possessed remarkable technologies, including methods for moving massive objects that were subsequently lost. These texts described levitation devices and other technologies that could supposedly reduce the effective weight of stone, making transportation easier, descriptions typically dismissed by conventional historians as mere legends or fantasy. But the physical evidence at Yangshan Quarry, a perfectly cut 16,000-ton megalith, suggests the ancient quarry workers genuinely believed they could move stones of this size, raising questions about what knowledge or technologies they might have possessed. Could they have been attempting to replicate feats achieved by earlier, pre-flood civilizations, drawing on fragments of ancient knowledge preserved in technical manuals or oral traditions? Knowledge of techniques that had once made moving such massive stones possible, but had been partially lost or corrupted over thousands of years. The mystery of Yangshan Quarry challenges us to reconsider our understanding of ancient engineering capabilities and the possibility that advanced technologies for quarrying and moving massive stones may have existed in the distant past, with echoes of this knowledge influencing later civilizations like the Ming Dynasty. Now, let's travel to the mysterious Longyu Caves in China, which present us with one of the most perplexing engineering enigmas in the ancient world. Discovered accidentally in 1992, when a local villager drained a pond, the Longyu Caves are a series of massive artificial caverns, hand-carved out of solid siltstone approximately 2,000 years ago during the Qin dynasty. What makes the Longyu Caves truly mind-boggling is their scale and precision. The 24 caves discovered so far cover nearly 30,000 square meters, with the largest cave reaching heights of 30 meters, equivalent to a 9-story building. Archaeologists estimate that creating these caverns would have required removing nearly 1 million cubic meters of rock, all supposedly accomplished using only iron chisels and basic hand tools. Even more perplexing is the perfect symmetry and precision evident throughout the caves. The walls, columns, and ceilings are covered with uniform parallel chisel marks, each approximately 60 centimeters long and cut at precise 60-degree angles to create a pattern like fish scales across vast surfaces. The mathematical precision of these markings appears consistent throughout all the caves, suggesting a level of planning, measurement, and quality control that seems beyond what should have been possible using primitive tools and oil lamps for lighting. Engineers who have studied the site estimate it would have taken 1,000 workers at least 6 years of continuous excavation to create the caves, an enormous investment of labor and resources for which no historical record exists. Despite the age and importance of the site, no mention of these massive artificial caverns appears in any historical Chinese texts, and no artifacts have been found inside them to indicate their purpose. This absence from historical records is particularly strange given China's meticulous documentation of major construction projects throughout its history. Even more puzzling is the question of how the ancient excavators maintained perfectly straight lines and precise angles while working in near darkness, removing thousands of tons of rock without the benefit of modern surveying equipment or artificial lighting. Some researchers have suggested that the caves must have been created using more advanced technology than conventional archaeology attributes to the Qin dynasty, possibly drawing on older techniques or knowledge from earlier civilizations. Others have proposed that the caves may be much older than currently believed, potentially dating back to a pre-flood period when advanced engineering knowledge was more widespread. Interestingly, many of the caves were found filled with water that had to be pumped out to reveal the structures within, suggesting they may have been intentionally flooded at some point in the past, perhaps to preserve them from some anticipated catastrophe. Could the Longyu Caves be evidence of a pre-flood civilization that possessed advanced engineering knowledge far beyond what conventional history attributes to ancient cultures? A civilization with the capability to precisely excavate massive underground spaces for purposes we can now only guess at? The mystery of the Longyu Caves challenges us to reconsider our understanding of ancient engineering capabilities and the possibility that advanced technologies for excavation and precision measurement may have existed thousands of years earlier than conventionally believed. As we conclude our exploration of these pre-flood megastructures that defy explanation, one thing becomes abundantly clear. Our conventional understanding of human history is woefully incomplete. From every corner of the globe, massive stone monuments and precision-engineered structures stand as silent testimony to capabilities that shouldn't have existed in the ancient world, according to our current historical narratives. These megalithic mysteries aren't isolated anomalies. They form a global pattern of sophisticated engineering, astronomical knowledge, and mathematical precision that spans continents and cultures. A pattern that suggests a widespread advanced civilization may have existed before the catastrophic flooding that accompanied the end of the last ice age approximately 12,000 years ago. The evidence is literally written in stone, challenging us to open our minds to possibilities that conventional archaeology has been reluctant to consider. What if the ancient flood myths found in over 200 cultures worldwide aren't merely allegorical tales, but cultural memories of actual catastrophic events that reset the course of human civilization? What if the gods and giants described in ancient texts were actually memories of an advanced pre-flood civilization whose technological achievements seemed godlike to the surviving cultures that followed? What if the most ancient and mysterious structures on our planet, from Göbekli Tepe to the Great Pyramid, from Sacsayhuaman to Baalbek, are the surviving remnants of this lost world? A world with knowledge and capabilities that in some ways may have rivaled or even exceeded our own, only to be lost in a global cataclysm that wiped away all but the most massive and durable evidence of their existence. As we stand in the shadow of these ancient mysteries, we must ask ourselves, are we the most advanced civilization to have existed on this planet, or are we still rediscovering knowledge that was once possessed and then lost thousands of years ago? The answer may lie beneath our oceans, buried under desert sands, hidden in remote mountain regions, or encoded in the very megalithic structures that have puzzled us for centuries. The truth about our past is still being uncovered, one impossible stone block at a time. And as we continue to explore these pre-flood megastructures with open minds and advancing technology, we may yet discover that human civilization is far older, far more advanced, and far more cyclical than we ever imagined. The greatest mystery isn't just how these ancient structures were built, but who we once were and who we might become again.